Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the World Online Racing YouTube channel for round number 9 of this PC Tier 1 season. Tonight, we head to Spain, newly reworked on this F1 23 game where the drivers will take to this circuit with many elevation changes, long straights, and a very harsh environment. My name is Dan Field, and tonight, I've been joined once again by Nathan Richards. Nathan, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. It's nice to be back here on Tier 1. Here for Spain, a very nice track. Obviously, one of the ones in this game with the new change. Obviously, that final section, there's no chicane now. It's just one big, fast, pretty much flat-out section. So it's nice to see what the drivers can do with that and see if, well, possibly we can get some better racing coming down out of that final corner, down towards that first turn. But yeah, it's again another great grid. Obviously, with Miano leading the championship, it's another opportunity for him to try and extend it. But as Lucas isn't here tonight.
Yep, well, we'll have a look at the results from Saudi Arabia last week. Of course, it was Isfan Pookie taking victory over Tomek Parages just by 14 thousandths of a second. Fabrizio Donoso ended up in third, Ronhar in fourth, Jan Ortmir finished fifth, sixth was Jed Norgrove, seventh was Mirko Soriano, eighth Jake Benham, ninth Ben Shabakoni, Alfie Butcher was in 10th. Nathan, of course, neither of us were here last week, but we definitely did see the fallout from Saudi Arabia. Fingers crossed, things are going to be better this evening. We'll see how these results affect the standings heading into this one. It is Jan Ortmir absolutely running away with the championship at the moment, leading by 23 points ahead of Lucas Blakely, and he's got yet again another opportunity to extend that gap as the Scot is not here. Nicholas Longue is in P3 on 78 points, and Otis Lawrence serving a race ban this evening on 73. Tomek Parages with his second place, he jumps up into 5th position on 51 points, and then Fabrizio Donoso with his P3 makes his way onto 45 level with last week's race winner Isfan Pookie. Alvaro Carreton, a disappointing season I'd say for him so far, sitting 8th on 34 points, then Piotr Stahelec on 30 points, and Thomas Ronhar breaking into the top 10 after a very slow start to this season. It's good to see him picking up some form, but Nathan, heading into this one, Jan Ortmir is in a fantastic position. He's racing tonight. His championship rival Lucas Blakely is not, and he's a good few points clear of Nicholas Longue, so it is looking good for the Dutchman.
It is, and also for Nicholas as well. He's got a chance tonight. If he wins the race, he can overtake Lucas in the standings. The gap between those two is 20 points: 98 for Lucas, 78 for Nico. So if he can win tonight, then he can put himself ahead. If he was to say second in the fastest lap, he'd be 1 point behind. So he's only got one chance to take second, and that is to win. But still, either way, any points he can get on the board will be very good for him to help him get himself up in the standings. Obviously, with Otis having another race ban, he can't improve on his position, so anything Nicholas can do can also put him further away from Otis. And after that, you got Tomek, who's 20 points back from Otis. From down then, I don't think any of the top three, at least, have got much of a worry for now. Lucas, I presume, will be back next week or the week after, so we'll see if he can also try and prove charge to Jarno. But if Jarno, I think, gets himself in the top 5, I think that's going to make it even more difficult for Lucas. The gap will be like, 33, 34 points? I think that is with this grid, it's quite a big gap to close down.
Yeah, Jarno, of course, racing this evening. Lucas Blakely, I believe, is doing some real-life racing. That was what was said in the live chat, so, best of luck to him. I know what I would much rather be doing. It's absolutely boiling in my room at the minute. I'd much rather be out in the fresh air and in a proper race car. But yeah, it's a very different grid. I could bring us over to the game scene, as a matter of fact, just to show you what the grid is looking like this evening. In the Red Bull is Jack West and Jed Norgrove. Ferrari is Isfan Pookie and Nicholas Longue. Mercedes is Jan Ortmir and Jake Benham, that familiar lineup. Alpine, Philip Presneder and Will Lewis. McLaren is Mirko Soriano and Joseph Loke. Alfa Romeo is Andrei Tarabukin and Valentin Brufair. Then Aston Martin, Fabrizio Donoso and Duncan Hofland. Haas, Ulash Ildrum and Xander Van Dyken. Alpha Tauri, Ismail Fassi and Tom Manley, who's serving a qualifying ban heading into this one. And then Williams will be Alvaro Carreton and, of course, Shanaka Clay, that very strong, solid duo that they've got there. But yeah, it's definitely a very different grid to what we normally see, Nathan. There's no Lucas, there's no Otis, and there's no Ronhar, so it is definitely a good chance for some of these guys lower down in the standings to get themselves some points.
Definitely. I think you've also obviously got the likes of Jarno, Jake, Nicholas and Alvaro, who are always going to be looking to score good points, but you have got the likes of Joseph and Mirko and Xander, who normally race only in Tier 2. Obviously, it'd be nice for them to get themselves some nice points, try and challenge themselves against some of these quicker guys in this lobby. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what they can do. But I think tonight points are on the board for pretty much anyone because the grid is I'd say, quite close. Because you've got a lot of people that are, esports, and you've got a few that just aren't quite at that level yet. So yeah, you've got kind of two kind of grids all mixed into one. So I think it'll be quite an exciting race and qualifying, of course, around a track like this.
Just been told that Lucas Blakely's doing Formula Ford National, at Brands Hatch, and he won race 3. Very well done to Lucas Blakely. I mean, he's an incredibly talented driver, and of course that translates from his F1 Esports experience. It really is nice that this does have sort of real life application. And Jan Ortmir, he used to race and I think like Formula Renault or something. Nicholas Longue's done some racing as well. So all these F1 Esports drivers, it's great to see them when they do real life racing. And well done to Lucas Blakely. Hopefully Thomas Ronhaar got on well in his race. I believe the drivers have just got the call, Nathan, to ready up. We're heading into this full qualifying format. It is, of course, Q1, Q2, Q3, 18 minutes, 50 minutes, and then 12 minutes. The bottom 5 from Q1 will be eliminated. Then the bottom 5 from Q2 will further be eliminated from that session. And then the top 10 will battle it out for pole position in Q3. It's a fantastic format. We already know one driver that's not going to be advancing, and that's Tom Manley, of course, serving his qualifying ban.
Yeah, and I think with Ned, there just being 4 drivers that'll drop out, it kind of relieves the pressure a little bit. As it's not 5, it's just 4. So hopefully for many drivers that can kind of calm them a bit as well. And I think also there'll be the likes of drivers that haven't raced much here in this tier, so they're more likely to drop out. So obviously for some of the drivers a bit further up the field, they'll be like, right, there's some drivers that might be a little bit slower. We have a high chance of getting ourselves through to Q2 and Q3. And I think around a track like this, I don't think we need to worry about what happened in Saudi, because a lot of drivers like to push each other off track. It's kind of the nature of racing. Around here, you push off, you're going onto gravel or onto a bit of off-track. Around Saudi Arabia, you're going straight into a wall 99% of the time. So I think around here, it shouldn't be too much of a worry of people having 5-6 car pilots, because it's a lot more of a wider track as well. And I think it's a track that's been in Formula 1 at least for quite a long time. It's got to be one of the oldest, surely.
I'm not too sure, if I'm completely honest. It's definitely been around longer than you and I have on the F1 calendar. We will join you in you can join us in Q1 after a quick word from our sponsors at Next Level Racing. We'll see you just a few moments' time. Welcome everyone, trackside here in WOR, getting ready for Q1 to start. The first man out on circuit, Fabrizio Donoso, with a familiar sight. It is of course the intermediate tyres for him. We'll see how he can do as he takes us on along this very cautious, very careful outlap of this beautiful circuit de Catalunya.
Yeah, I still think this is one of my favourite tracks. You've got lots of different elements to it. Obviously, you've got the slow section, which Fab's coming down to now in towards turn 5. Then you've got the high-speed sections at the end of the circuit, and also I think it's turn 9, the right-hander. So I think it's quite a track that also you need to get quite adaptive to, because of the different nature of the turns. You've got to make sure you have a setup that works pretty much with everything. Some drivers, however, might have setups that work in different parts well. So you might have some people that could work well into the braking zones, into the slow speed sections. Some people might have a car that's built for high speed and going, really quick down the straight. So we'll, throughout qualifying and throughout the race, we'll be able to kind of see what different type of setups people are running. I've noticed there's a couple more people out on track, Andre and Ishmael, and also Joseph Bloke, who's gone for the wets. Everyone else on the inters, Joseph has taken the wets, and well, Fabrizio's going to complete a lap, but most likely he'll probably just peel back into the pits before he completes it.
Yeah, I wonder, Joseph Loke, I remember, I think in Austria, It was. He was. This was when we had to run the multiplayer cars and such.
Uh,
I remember he was around in this one. I think he went out on wets and he gave us a little bit of a drift show. So I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that we see that. But we will watch Fabrizio Donoso as he takes to his first lap here in Spain. I love turn number 3 there. If I run it out wide, then of course keep a pin to the left, swing over to the right, and then run it out wide. You'll see all the circuit that you can around here. It's really nice to drive. Downhill left-hander, very easy to lock up through here. Hopefully we're not going to see too many guys go for impatient and improper moves up the inside there, because I know it definitely is a possibility with this tier 1 grid and how driving standards have been so far. Joseph Floke's going to do a nice job getting out of the way for Richard Donoso. He has to brake through there on the intermediate tyres, but I'd imagine once he's on the slicks, that's going to be completely flat for the Chilean driver, who's really had a nice run of form here on F1 23. I'm glad to see that he is doing better than he was on the last game. He slides his way through the third sector. We'll see what he can do on his first lap, but Nathan, we shouldn't be expecting a world beater here.
Yeah, definitely not. We'll see what he can do. You can see after going does it in that final ball. The Inters definitely aren't optimal at all, and it'll be 1:15.032. Probably still quicker than what I do in this game, but still on the Inters for these guys, it's nothing. A few more got to set times. I'm not sure if they'll actually complete their laps though. But talking about Joseph, I'm sure I saw something on Twitter about him being entered to the Aston Martin Young Driver Award. Who got to the top 10, which is quite a cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Joseph Floke is another driver that does real-life racing. Of course, racing, I believe, GB4. I think last year he did British Formula 4 as well. So, Joseph Floke, another driver as he slides his way through turn number 3, is another example of a driver who is incredibly quick on the F1 games and having that translate over into real life. I'm sure it can go either way. I'm pretty, I think he's probably been doing real-life racing for a lot longer than he's actually been doing this esports stuff. But it's great to see once again that these esports guys, they are handy in a real car as well, and it really does remove that stigma that these guys are just gamers that don't know how to do anything, sitting in their bedroom all day.
Yeah, well, obviously some people like Yana went from karting to racing. I think Lucas was one that went from esports to IRL racing. But yeah, I think sometimes people get that, especially esports, get that stigma as Joseph drifting. Very nice at turn 10.
Oh, if he links it up, that's got to be a 10 out of 10. Oh, save it, hold it, nice.
Oh, he's not going to be thrown there, surely not. I'm sure he doesn't want to end up risking the wall. Well, very nice.
Oh, wow. I mean, I said it before he got his lap underway. He was going to do something like that. That was incredible to see. Joseph Floke, take a bow.
Yeah, surely someone's going to have to clip that and put it on YouTube on one of the social medias. As Philip Preschnader goes quickest to 14.692. So normally I tend to see 2 people out normally on Inters, and to be fair for what I've seen, this is quite a lot compared to normal. There's about 6 of them out at the moment. Most of them heading back into the pits, however, and then normally we get that dire stage for about 3 minutes where there's nothing happening at all. So yeah, get ready for that, everyone. Yeah,
Marco Soriano has come across land, 1:14.899. We're going to be expecting a lot quicker times than this later on in the session, but yeah, it's normally around the 10-minute mark that we start to see drivers exiting the pit lane on a fresh set of the slick tyres. I think we're going to watch Joseph Floke again to see if he does any more drifting, because there really isn't much happening at the minute. He's going to take to the third sector once again. Is he going to swing out the rear? Indeed he will. Can he make it look a little bit cleaner than it was last time? I don't know. I think I prefer last one, to be completely honest with you. What about in for this next part of the track? I don't think he's given us much of a show anymore. A little bit of a counter steer off the exit of turn number 10 or something, but he's going to come back into the pit lane. Bit of a letdown, I've got to say there.
Oh, he drifted into the pit lane. That was a nice one. He compensated us. But talk about the pit lane. You've got that bump on the entry, which has been, it's been victim to many. I've seen a lot of people. I think it was in, I forgot what league it was now. So I think it was Legend Rosenberg. He jumped over the curb in over that bump in one of the previous races somewhere, and he ended up in the wall because that bump kind of throws you back across the track, and a lot of people end up in the pit wall, like the wall that goes into the entry of the pit lane. So let's hope that happens to no one. I've seen it quite commonly, so I'm sure someone will have fate to that, but hopefully in qualifying it doesn't happen. I think it's at the start of qualifying you don't want to end up bouncing over a bump and hitting the wall, because chances are you'll be out, and considering no one's got any representative lap times, you're not going to get through at all on any of these times. But everyone's got a set time because Tom's in 12th. I don't know why it doesn't drop people to last, but yeah, if someone doesn't just say everyone below Tom didn't set a time, Tom would be through to Q2. Which makes no sense. Just drop the car side to the back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they don't do that, to be completely honest with you, but yeah. I mean, what can we say at this point? We've got Fabrizio Donoso, the main man out on circuit, the only driver on an out lap. No one else has really ventured out of the pit lane and can't actually see any activity on the track map either, so I think it is time that we get our first lap underway, open up the DRS and head down this very long straight and heading in towards turn number 1. It's downhill through here. We get a wonderful view of the scenery around this track and in towards the first corner, braking about 50-meter board, riding the curves through turn number 2, and then this long-winded right-hander. You're going to keep it pinned to the inside line as much as you can, take it as tight as possible in towards turn number 4 now, Repsol corner, and already he's 8 tenths up, almost 9 tenths up on his previous best. That was settling intermediate though. He's now in towards turn number 5. The circuit incredibly flowing through here for this a slight lock up into that corner. We'll see if he's able to recover some time through TV3. Very tricky on these curves. Don't ride over that yellow one on the outside there, and he's done that very nicely. Let's listen. Indeed it is, flat out Fabrizio Donoso completely through there, keeping it pinned in 6th gear, then rising up in towards 8th. Another lock up for Donoso heading in towards turn number 10. So it's not looking the cleanest lap so far for Fabrizio, but he is definitely fast.
He is, yeah. This will be a good enough time to hopefully get himself through to Q2. Fabrizio is normally one he can set one time and be safe, but we'll just see because obviously the times will improve heavily. We'll see what he can do. As he heads to the line, it'll be a 1:10.777. Very nice banker. We've got everyone now. Well, a lot of people heading out onto tracks to begin their first runs, or at least their second runs, but first representative runs. Philippe's at the front. He's heading down the straight in towards turn 10, and you've got one of the Alfa Romeos sitting right behind. So yeah, we're just going to hope people don't get caught up in traffic, and hopefully we don't get the penalties again. We barely make it through one qualifying session without getting a penalty. We're going to make it through 3, so yeah, I think the chances are quite unlikely. But we'll see. We never know what can happen.
Yeah, I've just come to expect it really. I mean, I don't see any other alternative where we don't have to restart. So I'm sure that is pending very soon. The last 2 drivers out on circuit are the 2 Mercedes boys of Jan Ortmeier and Jake Benham. They'll be merging onto the circuit just ahead of Philip Pregnader as he gets his lap underway, heading in towards turn number 1. Once again, riding the curves through turn number 1 and 2 and keeping it pinned to the inside of this long-winded right-hander. Jake Benham, or one of the Mercedes, I think that is Benham, on the inside there, might have impeded Philip ever so slightly. He's definitely not going to cause any disturbance though, because he wasn't really coming through a corner at that point. In towards turn number 5, is he going to keep the brakes moving, the tyres rotating? Indeed he will, so no lock-up for Philip Pregnader. It's looking a lot cleaner than what we saw from Fabrizio Donoso earlier on the lap.
Yeah, Philip's doing a great job, obviously. I don't think he's raced too much, has he, in this tier? I haven't seen him much at all. I've seen him a few times. But nevertheless, he always does a great job, or does what he can at least. He's up by 2.5 seconds in that middle sector and first sector combined. Coming through in towards the final part of that through turn 12. Very difficult round here. Easy to lose the traction. Obviously easy also to go wide down the exit, which has been victim to many people's lap times. Into the final quarter, turn 14. I'm back on the power up to the line. What will it be for pressure? Is it quicker than Donoso? No, it's not. It's a 10th down. Well, about 60 thousandths down on Donoso. A few more people coming through. That's, I think, one of the Alfa Romeos. Is it Sandro Tarabikin up to P3 with a 10.905. Ishmael Fassi goes quickest with a 10.674. I think we've got a few of the Mercedes coming through, but I think pretty much everyone now is on an out lap, beginning their laps.
Yeah, I'm watching Nicolas Longuet at the minute. Currently purple through the second sector, so we'll ride on board with the Frenchman. It's a good opportunity for him to potentially overtake he is Nicolas Longuet, to overtake Lucas Blakely in the championship standings. We'll see what he can do as he goes flat out through turn number 13 in towards the final corner of Catalunya. Completely flat out through here, open up the DRS and come across the line. What's it going to be? Disappointing, I'd say. 1 minute 10.856 for Nicolas Longuet. Will Lewis in behind him with a... I've done that before, you know. No, I've done it with Luke. I've done Will Smith for Luke Smith, and now I've done... Oh my god, I'm having a mare with these names sometimes.
Well, Valentin Bruffair, one that you can't really get mixed up, is comes on. He goes quickest by 2 thousandths ahead of Ishmael Fassi. Then you've got both the Mercedes on laps. Jarno is heading down in towards turn 10, and Jake's coming down in towards TV3 at turn 7 and 8. So we'll see what Yonomir can do. Coming through towards turn 12 very shortly. Keep it to the inside. Drift one on the exit. Get yourself the power down nice and early. Through turn 13 before shortly hitting turn 14. Want to keep this pretty much flat if you can. Very nice job from Yano. Can he put himself on the top spot as he heads to the line? It's P3. What about his teammate Jake Benham, who's coming down in towards turn 30 at the moment?
See what we can do then. Keep it flat through turn number 13, then rider towards the outside of turn at number 14. Let's grab off as little speed as possible. Jake Benham is going to come up towards the line. What's it going to be for him? Only P13, a 1 minute 10.853 for Jake Benham. In a spot of bother, I would say, at the moment. We'll have a look at the bottom 5. It is Duncan Hoffman, Anna Van Dyken, Andrei Tarabukin, and Ulash Zildrim. Of course, Tom Manley automatically eliminated, serving a qualifying ban. But I would say the likes of Joseph Loke, Philip Prejenator, Jed Norgrove, Jake Benham and Nicholas Longate and Will Lewis as well, all of them are definitely in trouble of being eliminated, because Duncan Hoffland isn't too far behind any of these guys. He just has to improve by less than a tenth and he could potentially find himself in that top 10. So these guys on their second runs have got to get a move on. He's only got 5 minutes left to go in this first session.
Yeah, well, Duncan's only 2 thousandths behind Will Lewis, as Valentine thinks that time is safe enough. I think a 6-7-1 is definitely safe enough. But Nicholas Longate is one who definitely needs to improve. Obviously, could be a championship protagonist depending on what happens in Jarno's race and throughout the next couple of races. So he definitely needs to get himself out of Q1. If you end up going out in Q1, it's going to be difficult to work your way back up to at least get some decent points. Remember, if Nicholas wants to get himself ahead of Lucas, he needs to win the race. He could get second in the fastest lap, but he would only be 1 point behind. So if he wants to get ahead, he's got to win. And starting in the bottom 5 is not where you want to be. Ishmael Fassi also retires. He thinks he's 10.6 is good enough. Ulas, he's heading down in towards turn 1 to begin his first lap. I think he did do a run, but he invalidated. But now he's the only one on track, so he's got the chance to try and get himself a decent time without the pressure of anyone else having to move out the way or beginning their own laps.
Yeah, completely clear air for Ulash Zildrim, and he's going to have no fear of anyone getting in his way at a very crucial part of the circuit. So maybe that's going to relieve a little bit of pressure on the Turk's shoulders as he heads in towards turn number 5 up in the second sector. Very technical through here, especially in this quick left-right where you ride over those curves, you could potentially be sent into a spin. I'm pretty sure we've seen that here in a WOR before. Is now flat out through turn at number 9 and open up the DRS once again, heading in towards turn at number 10. This was reprofiled on the new F1 23 game. That used to be a hairpin corner. It was really, it just felt clunky on the older games, and it's definitely an upgrade on what we have this time by this is definitely an upgrade on what we had previously. Once again, flat out through turn number 13 and 14, makes for a much quicker lap around here. Open up the DRS and see what Ulash Zildrim can do. It's P7, 1 minute 10.741. Look at how many drivers are all on the 1 minute 10.7s and then on the 1 minute 10.8. This is an incredibly close qualifying session, and now is a good time to ask everyone in the live chat, what do you think the cut-off time is going to be, and who is just about going to squeak by in P15? Nathan, I'm going to pose that same question to you.
Well, who do you think will go out?
Who's gonna survive in P15?
It's a bit of a hard one. I'm gonna say Joseph Loke. I think he'll get himself through, but I think it'll be a struggle. But still, that's a bit of a mean question to ask in front of everyone.
Oh, it's not.
You've got to answer it as well.
I've got to answer. I'm going to go with Will Lewis. He's going to squeak by in 15th position. He's going to survive into the next session. But, I mean, who else was I going to say, really? Yeah, I think you should expect that from me.
Well, you could go with Nicholas Longay, who's already in P15, but I don't think that's the night. I don't think it's the best bet, because if he does go out, then I think the blame's on you at that point. But Yana also retires along with Isfan, and there we go, the first penalty of the evening, and it goes to one of the Hasses of Sander Van Dyken. So, pretty much confirmed we will have a restart after Q3. So, yeah, get posted for that, because it will happen.
It came a bit earlier than we'd normally expect it. I'm a bit disappointed. Yeah. Normally we get it in Q3. Matt, have a little think in the live chat. We're seeing some of the drivers saying... some of the people in the live chat saying what they think the cut-off time is going to be. We've seen a 14.787. That's a very bold prediction, I would say, but that is definitely possible. 1 minute 10.816. Someone said a 1 minute 10.2 is going to be the cut-off. I'm not too sure about that one there, but we'll have to wait and see in just a few minutes' time, as the first final laps are getting underway, and it is the drifter himself, Joseph Loke, getting his run underway as he heads up through turn number 3.
Yep, coming through into turn 3. My guess for finishing P15, so he's got to make sure he can do that. Otherwise, yeah, I don't want the bet to be wrong. But he goes purple, however. In the first sector, 47,000 up on his first previous sector. We'll see what he can do as he heads down towards turn 5. Shanaka also retires in the pit lane. Back on board with Joseph Loke, heading through now in towards TV3 at the chicane at turn 7 and 8. Very difficult through here. Got to make sure you don't bounce to go too much, as it's very easy to bottom the car. Very nice there from Joseph. Up in towards turn 9 out the right hander. Pretty much flat through there in gear 6, and you get the DRS open. Flat down as you head down in towards turn 10. Brake just between the 50 and the 100 metre board. Blow the car into gear 4, then just coast the car through. Be careful on the throttle through here. Very easy to lose the rear of the car as you head through towards turn 12. Very nice, and then trying to go too wide. Then you come through towards turn 13, and finally at turn 14, we'll see, can Joseph Loke get himself comfortably through to Q2, or will he be on the cusp? But he gets the line. It's a 1. Oh, he goes quickest at 10.6. Now that shows how quick the track is going to be ramping up. Also, Xander breaks his front wing in the pits.
Oh dear, Will Lewis gets himself up into P7, 1 minute 10.726. Who is next up to come across the line? It'll be Nicholas Longe, a championship hopeful at the minute, currently in the drop zone. Where is he going to go? He's improving by quite a bit in the second sector, and there it is, into P2, just behind Joseph Loke. We've seen someone else come to the line, that's Philip Presnader in 10th. Jack West, we've not seen too much of him this session in P2. Jake Benham eliminated from this session. He can't get himself out of the bottom 5. Same goes for Andrei Tarabukin. What about Duncan Hoffman? We'll watch him as he comes to the end of his run. Jed Norgrove has come across the line, and he's only found himself in 15th. Will Duncan Hoffman be the one to eliminate Norgrove from this session? As now off the exit of the final corner, Mirko Soriano has come across the line with a 1 minute 10.7. Duncan Hoffman just about squeezes on through in P15, 1 minute 10.779 for him. Coming across the line finally is Fabrizio Donoso in P4, and that brings us to the end of this session. Jed Norgrove 16th, Jake Benham 17th, 18th, Andrew Tarabukin, Xander Van Dyken 19th, and then Tom Manley serving as qualifying ban will start dead last in this race. But Nathan, gotta say, the big shock there, Jake Benham down in 17th position.
Yeah, well, he was down in the second, but he looked like he was doing decent in the third sector. And he come into turn 14, and it seems I think he turned it a bit too early, so he had to back out so he didn't go off track. And then he let off and thought, yeah, well, I'm not going to get it, so screw it. And he slowed down. So yeah, not good at all for Jake to be out. He's got a lot of work to do from 17th. Obviously, Tom Manley's out anyway because of his qualifying ban, but still not good at all for Jed, Andre and Xander. And well, we guess Will and Joseph. They're 1st and 11th. And the person who was on the cut-off was Duncan Hoffman, who I think was yet again another fair option. He very nice to get himself through to Q2. Obviously, Duncan, I believe, is racing in Tier 2 mainly at the moment. So obviously, to get yourself through into Q2 in Tier 1 is something very nice indeed. And also, very nice for Joseph Loke, up top of the timing sheets with a 10.649. I know it's only Q1, but still. And Jack West as well in second. If you're doing that well, then surely you've got a hope of a pole probably in Q3.
Yeah, well, in Tier 2, Joseph Loke is currently in the championship fight. He's just 2 points off the championship lead at the minute, so it's great to see that he is now topping Tier 1. And look at how, oh my god, look how close this qualifying session. I didn't even realise how incredibly close this session was. First down to 14th, which is what appears on the screen, is not even separated by a 10th of a second. Jack West got within 100th of a second of Joseph Loke across one lap. Loke tops the session, West in second, third is Longe, fourth Fabrizio Donoso, Valentin Brufair fifth, sixth is Ishmael Fassi, Jan Otmir in seventh, eighth is Istvan Pukki, and then rounding at the top 10 is Mirko Soriano and Alvaro Caraton, not even a quarter of a tenth off the top spot. Will Lewis in 11th, 12th is Presnader, 13th Clay, 14th Azildrum, Duncan Hoffman just about squeezing through in 15th, and then eliminated from the session Jed Norgrove, Jake Benham, Andrei Tarabukin and Xander Van Dyken. To the end of Q1. Not too many surprise exits at this point, but Jake Benham certainly going out is definitely going to be a big blow to Mercedes' chances this day, because of course their teammates Jan Otmir and Jake Benham, and Jano's in a championship fight at the minute. He's going to need his teammate throughout the entirety of it if he wants to properly get an advantage in this race.
Yeah, definitely. I think the good thing for Jake and Jan together is obviously their teammates in esports. So they have that bond with each other where they'll probably work together. There'll be some people, I believe, in this tier who don't normally work together in esports, whether the fact they're not in esports or they're not in the same team and they're just in a car that they could get. So yeah, I think that's one of the advantages that Mercedes can have, and like some Williams who can always work together. Some of the teams aren't that fortunate with that, but we've got many people out onto track. Obviously, on their used tyres unless they're the likes of, I think, Isfan and I think it was Shanaka who only did one lap on their tyres. Many others obviously did multiple so they could get themselves through to Q2. But the first on track, I believe, is, I think it's Shanaka Clay. No, it's not. It's Alvaro Caraton, who's only 14th. And I think Alvaro, I don't think we spoke about him much at all in Q1, did we?
Nope, didn't even mention him, I think, at all. So he's definitely got flown under the radar in Q1, but heading into Q2, he's the first man out on track. Now, normally, everyone watching at the moment, these are going to be on a scrub set of the tyre, which means this is likely to be the set that they used in Q1. What I believe is that it gives them a little bit of a psychological advantage to be setting your banker lap on a slower compound or a slower set of tyres, so that once you strap on a fresh set of the softs and then go for your runs, it will show you green in the delta time, and that's going to give you that little bit of a confidence boost heading into this one. So that's why we see everyone coming out on circuit, but Nathan, we are not going to be expecting these times to be as quick as what we saw at the end of Q1.
Oh yeah, definitely not. I think we'll see times probably 3 or 4 tenths, maybe even more slower than what we saw in Q1. But I think one thing to highlight how close the times were was normally in qualifying in any session, the top 6 are normally you'd think separated by 2 or 3 tenths. Well, the top 6 were separated by 2.5, no, a quarter of a tenth of a second. That was how close it was. So I think yet again we'll see another close Q2, and when it's the top 14 separated by less than a tenth, literally anyone in this grid could go out in this session. So your bankers need to be great. As Ismail Fassi doesn't have a great bank lap, he goes off the track at turn 2 after taking a little bit too much power, and obviously that is something that's more likely because you have got worse tyres.
Yep, and he's going to get out of the way of Alvaro Caraton. He's going to blitz on by him, heading in towards turn number 4 at Repsol. It's 21.430 through the first sector. We'll see what he can do as he heads for this flowing technical second sector. Slight lock up on the inside front left, but off the exit of the corner is going to use all the track possible. Going to keep it as straight as possible in towards turn number 6. Be careful over this yellow curve. The sausage curve can really dissettle the car and send you potentially into a spin. Flat out now through turn number 9 and open up the DRS to take the run down in towards turn number 10. Brake just in between the 50 and 100 metre board, and then run it out wide through the next part of the corner in towards turn number 11 and 12. Very long-winded, slower right-hander, and it's completely flat towards the line through here, through turn number 13, and through the final corner, turn number 14 of Catalunya. Use all the track possible, scrub off as little speed as possible. 1 minute 10.726 from Alvaro Caraton. That does not seem like a slow lap whatsoever. These are competitive times we're seeing. 1 minute 10.677 for Fabrizio Donoso. His teammate for the evening, Duncan Hoffman, 1 minute 10.970. Ulash Zildjian come across the line with a decent time as well. Jano Otmi is in 3rd, Soriano is in 6th, 5th. For Shanaka Clay, there's Nicholas Longe to the top of the order.
It's very nice. So a 590 on probably used tyres is very nice. That's a 10th ahead of Donoso. But I'm on board with Josie Float coming down in towards the final corner. We'll see what he can do. Top Q1. Can he try and top Q2 at the moment? He'll come to the line and it is P6 with a 10.738. So about just over, I think, a tenth and a half or something from Nicholas. So still very decent for a banker. And obviously out the session currently, who will be out is Van Team Brewface, I'm Pookie, Philip, Ishmael and Will. Obviously about the Alpines, I don't think those 4 actually went out, did they? Well, I know Ishmael did, but I don't know about the others. I think there was a couple that did stay in the pits, and that could be just so they don't have to use another set of tyres.
Well, there was one of the Alpines out on track. I'm not too sure if it was Philip or Will, or if it was both of them at different parts of the run, but yeah, they've not got a lap time on the board, so there might have been an invalidation or a mistake on any possible runs that they set, but there's still plenty of time in this session. 10.5 minutes left to go. Nicholas Longe currently sits at the top of the order, 1 minute 10.590. Fabrizio Donoso in P2, P3 for Alvaro Caraton. So yeah, very competitive start to this session. Now, of course, normally this would be on a scrub set of the tyres, but these improvements on the Q1 times are leading me to believe that they've strapped on a fresh set of softs. However, if you remember back to Mexico, we asked Fabrizio Donoso, he just absolutely smashed his Q1 time out of the water with his first Q2 attempt, and he did that on a scrub set of the tyres as well. So not too sure really at this point, but nevertheless we'll move on. Philip Prejnader on circuit, I believe, for the first time as he heads through turn number 4. Ishmael Fassi following in behind him.
Yeah, Philip's just coming down in towards turn 5 and Ishmael coming through turn 2. This is where he lost his first lap. He went a little bit too deep, I think, into that second corner. Could have been the fact he had a bit too much curb and had to veer off the track not to save the car. It could have been the fact he just took a little bit too much power and he just had to correct himself, which is not ideal. And, well, at the start of Q2, considering how close this grid is, you want every bank he can get, every lap time counts. So not good at all for these four, and it puts them on the back foot realistically in this session. And if they can't deliver now, they've got one chance. And we know pressure's high. Even if you've got a decent time on the board, you can still be in first and still have that immense pressure. But when you've got no time on the board and you've got one lap to go, the pressure is really high. And I wouldn't be surprised if people make mistakes due to having that pressure and you push a little bit too much and it can end your lap. So realistically, they want to get themselves a lap time, these bottom four, and also Valentine, because his lap time isn't representable, just so they can lay off a little bit of pressure going into Q3 as Ishmael is heading down in towards turn 12. But I think Philippe is starting the app. Yes, he is. Philippe now heading down in towards turn 1 with his DRS. Hasn't got a lap time on the board. Desperately needs to get a lap time, which hopefully for him, he'll put himself in the 10.7s or even the 10.6s, as that would help him heavily going into the final part of this session.
A few cars in front of him on circuit. Hopefully no one's going to get in the way of Philippe on his lap as one of the McLarens gets out of the way very nicely indeed. Heading up the hill and towards turn number 3 and then approaching turn 4. See what the time is at the end of the first section, 21.383. Very nice so far for Philippe Presnay. He's in a decent position thus far. Now downhill through the next left-hander of turn number 5. Very easy to lock up through here. You really just want to use all the track possible along this circuit. Now in towards turn number 6 and 7 and 8. Then up the hill to turn number 9. We're right on board with him, but he takes it completely flat in 6th gear, then shift up to 7th. Incredible commitment from Philippe Presnay as he continues this run. It's going to be a 49.853 combined in the first and second section. Looking very decent for him thus far. Now up in towards turn number 12. So much elevation change around this circuit. It's incredible to watch. Completely flat now from turn number 13 and 14 off the exit of the final corner. We'll see what Philippe Presnay can do. He opens up the DRS and comes across the line at P3 for him, a 1 minute 10.718. Very nice indeed for the Alpine.
We've got many people coming through. Ishmael Fassi coming down into the final corner. He's into turn 14. Very nice in gear 7. Back up front with the DRS and the full power. It's only P11, so yet again, for Ishmael, not good enough to get himself through, but he has got another chance left. There's 7 minutes left of the session, so he'll have to use another set of tyres. But being out, now he's not ideal. He's on an 8.68. He's going to improve by at least a tenth or two to get himself through to Q3, so a lot of pressure remains on him, as that was Will Lewis up into P4, matching the time of his teammate with a 7.18. So that is very close to the millisecond that is between those two. As Istvan Pukki's heading down in towards the final couple of corners. I believe that was also one of the McLarens. That's Mirko Soriano, but he's beginning a lap, and then his teammate Josie Float just behind. So trying to figure out where people are on track and if they're on a lap or not is quite confusing, because I'm surprised there's not a setting to say if someone's on a hot lap or not, because it is quite confusing for us to try and work out who's where and what they're doing.
Alvaro Caraton coming across the line now, but he's improving by a decent amount. 1 minute 10.498. The first 0.4 of the day goes to the top of the order. Very nice indeed from him. Duncan Hoffland up next to come across the line. Currently in the drop zone. He gets himself into 6th position. Nice time from him there. Shanaka Clay in the drop zone at the moment. Nevermore. He is now up into P2. It's a Williams front row lockout for the time being. Nicholas Longue has backed off on his run. His teammate Istvan Pukki is going to split the two Williams. Jana Otmir going to be next up to cross the line in a bit of a dangerous position, but he goes to the top of the order. Very nice from the Dutchman indeed. Now who are we going to watch to come across the line next? We'll watch Valentin Bruffair. He was incredibly quick in Q1. We'll see if that's going to translate over in towards Q2 as he comes across the line. 1 minute 10.528 for him is good enough to net himself P4. Very nice from him there. Now up next to the line, Mirko Soriano comes into the pit lane. It'll be Joseph Loke then to be the next man to complete his lap. Can he put Duncan Hoffland in the drop zone? Comes across the line, P7 for him. 1 minute 10.563. Joseph Loke, very nice time there.
It is, and well, this time then you're right, because Will Lewis is on the cut off.
Oh no.
So will you be right this time into Q3? Well, it'd be nice for Will, because it'd mean he gets himself through, but yeah, it's quite competitive at the moment, and with Duncan being only 5 thousandths-ish behind, and then Ulash's only been about 15 thousandths behind, there's a lot of pressure on Will and also Philippe, who are both in the 0.7s, and above that, there's about a tenth gap towards Nicholas Longue, so the ones above the field, so like Jarno and Alvaro, probably could get away with retiring now and not sending some more tyres into Q3, but I think anyone probably Joseph or Shanaka down has to get out and set another lap time. Obviously, Ishmael Fassi, P15 with the .868, he heavily needs to get back out and get himself, hopefully for him, a decent time to put himself either into Q3 at least, higher than 15th on the grid. And also Jack West, another surprise, that in 13th. He was second, I think, in the first session with a .6, and this time he's 2/10 off that. So hopefully he can get himself comfortably into the top 10 for qualifying 3.
Well, at the minute, it is Jarno Ottmar, the championship leader, leading this session. He looks unstoppable at this point. However, Alvaro Carreton keeping him very humble at the minute. Just 400 between the pair of them in this Q2 session. We've still got a decent amount of ways to go. 4 minutes left in this session. Now's a good time to think about what the cut-off time is going to be. Currently, if you're on a 1 minute 10.718, you are surviving in this session. Philip Fresneda and Will Lewis, 9th and 10th position, joint on the same time. They're in a dead heat down at Alpine. Nathan, what's the cut-off time going to be?
I'm going to say a 0.55. So 0.550, I'm going to say. What about you, Dan?
That's going to mean that Shanaka Clay would be safe on his time at the minute. Joseph Loke, Nicholas Longue, Philip Prejean and Will Lewis would all need to do another lap. We're going to pose that same question to everyone in the live chat, and we'll read out some of your responses. I'm going to go a little bit quicker than that. I'm going to say a 1 minute 5.2. No, 0.31 is going to be the cut-off. I think Fabrizio Donoso is just going to need another lap left in this session. However, there is a bit of a chasm actually between 8th and 9th position, because Longue is on a 10.5, Philip Prejean on a 10.7. They are separated by just 1 position, so who knows what the cut-off time is going to be. Maybe we shouldn't be thinking about the 5s, maybe more in towards the 6s. I just don't know at this point. We'll read out some of your answers in the live chat. So someone is saying, Michael Marlowe saying a 1 minute 10.5 at 9.0. Gabe Boy, it says a 1 minute 10.524. Bertie Ryland says 5.25, 556 from Duster X1. Then we've got Zerf saying 5.2. So Nathan, everyone is sort of culminating in around the mid to low 0.5s.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people say the high 4s, but I personally don't think that'll be the case. No, so yeah, I think the 5s are a fair bet. If you say somewhere around the 5s, I think you'll most likely be right. And I think even if we're not right to the 10th or the, if we're not right to the 100th or the 1000th, most of us will be right to the 10th hopefully, and it should be around a 0.5. But everyone heading out on track, Will Lewis is far ahead of everyone. He'll have some nice clean air to set his final lap in Q2. Currently down in P10 with the 7.18, has to improve by a couple of tenths at least compared to what everyone thinks the cut-off time will be in this session. So we'll see what he can do as he starts his final lap. Gonna hit his way through towards turns 12 and then foot on the throttle, ready to begin his final lap of the session.
Will Lewis, one of the league racing greats, off the exit of the final corner. We'll see what he can do as he begins this lap. We've just got 1.5 minutes left to go in this session, and this man is right on the cusp of being eliminated. Will he snatch victory from the jaws of defeat? We'll have to wait and see. Duncan Offland takes a grid penalty. I think that all but confirms that we are going to have a restart as he flies now through the first sector, uphill through turn number 3. There's no traffic in the way of Will Lewis, which I think is definitely going to be incredibly beneficial for him as he's up by just about 200 through the first sector. It's not an amazing improvement, but it is certainly something, and every little helps when you're in such a close and competitive grid. Now in through the second sector, it gets very technical through here, especially in towards turn number 6 and 7. We have to be so wary of these curbs setting you into a spin. Will Lewis has invalidated his lap time somewhere along. I don't know if that's just happened or if it's or if it was a few corners ago, but I didn't even realise it. But now Will Lewis, we'll see what he's doing. He's improving by a massive amount, almost 1.5 tenths of a second. That could be disaster for his session. We'll have to wait and see how that is going to impact him. Shanaka Clay is behind him on circuit, who is purple in that second sector, but only improving by 0.07 of a second. Currently on a 1 minute 10.541. We'll see what the Englishman can do as he heads through the final few corners. Again, wide off the exit of turn number 12, and is going to invalidate his lap. That could put him in danger heading in towards the last few runs of this session. Nicholas Longue then will be the only driver so far to get a valid lap time on the board. I think Will Lewis has gone once again. Here comes now Nicholas Longue to the line. He improves, but not by much. And Shanaka Clay speared off into the wall somewhere. Ulash Zildjian puts himself into P8. Philip Prejean to come across the line next. Doesn't find any improvement. He's made a mistake and massive one at that, in the final sector. Valentin Bruffair then up next to come across the line. Where will he go? We'll go to the top of the order, overtaking Jarno Ottmar. Jack West gets himself out of the danger zone and into P4. That should safely see him into Q3. Istvan Pukki will be the next one to come across the line. What's it going to be for the Hungarian winner in Saudi Arabia? Doesn't find any improvement, as I believe Ismail Fassi is going slower. He's had a spin actually off the exit of the final corner. He will be eliminated from this session. Joseph Loke is coming to line. We're watching his teammate Mirko Soriano through the final 2 corners, currently in 14th position and in the drop zone. Where can the Italian driver in the McLaren find himself on the grid? He gets himself out of the bottom 5 and into Q3. Duncan Hoffland eliminated from this session. Will Lewis isn't pushing on this lap, and that confirms who is out of this session. Duncan Hoffland, Ulash Zildjian, Philip Presnader, Will Lewis and Ismail Fassi all eliminated from Q2.
Well, did you also get that quickly, Shanaka?
What?
Shanaka retired on track, dropped into P10. People improved quicker than him, and he still stays in P10.
That's
which
because,
is weird.
Yeah, well, no one's in the drop zone that's quicker than him. So, essentially what it's done, I'm pretty sure, is that he's not going to take part in Q2, in Q3. Yeah, Shanaka Clay, because he's crashed on circuit, he's not actually going to be able to take part in Q3, so he will be starting P10 in this race. But he's found himself into the next session. Maybe what I think's happened is that he's crashed.
He did at the final corner. He caught the final corner, then he crashed after the line. So it's like he went to the line and just binned it into the wall. But the thing that confused me was he was quicker than people through. He's quicker than the likes of Nicholas and Joseph. So he would have been through if he didn't bin it into the wall, which I would have presumed he'd be like, oh, for God's sake, and then mang. Yeah, so he's going to be kicking himself for that, isn't he?
Well, yeah, I don't know what he's done there. He was good enough to get through into the next session, but now he's not going to take part in it. So, and that's why he's been dropped to P10, because he is technically in the next session, but we already know he is going to be starting in P10. So Shanaka Clay, out of qualifying here, will be starting in 10th. That means there's only going to be 9 cars fighting for pole position. Duncan Hoffland, Ulash Zildjian, Philip Presnader, Will Lewis and Ismail Fassi all eliminated from Q2, which sets us up for a fantastic Q3 session. 12 minutes, 9 cars fighting it out for P1. Seems like the quickest guys in qualifying so far. Jarno Ottmar, Valentin Bruffair, they seem to be the 2 to beat.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting final session with only 9 drivers setting lap times in Q3. Oh, it's going to be hard. Who we're going to guess for pole? But Dan, who are you going to say?
Oh, it's a tough one there. I'm going to go with I'll go. I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Jarno Ottmar to take pole position. Might be a boring choice. Championship leader, been incredible this season so far. But you know what? I just feel like getting a win potentially today, and I want to increase my chances as much as possible. So yeah, Jarno Ottmar, I'm going to say him. He will take pole position. He's the first man actually out on circuit.
Yeah, well, I'll go with Nicholas Lange. Probably his closest driver in this session so far. And make sure in the live chat everyone to let us know who you think will take pole position. I've already saw one prediction, that is Michael saying Joseph Loke for pole, and BRA Seal saying Loke for pole as well. So Joseph Loke getting a lot of love. It's possible he topped Q1, so no reason saying he can't top Q3.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will join you back in Q3 trackside after a quick word from our sponsors at Virage GG. Welcome back, everyone. Trackside here in Q3 with just 10 minutes left to go. The first time is beginning. It is Jarno Ottmar out on circuit. Managed to get himself into Q3 with only 1 run on the board. That means he's going to have an extra fresh set of the soft compound tyres to attack this session with. And that is definitely going to increase his chance for pole position. We'll see what he can do as he climbs up through turn number 3 and in towards the second sector now.
Yeah, Yeah, 21.255 in that first sector. It does take purple, but that's because he's the first one to set a sector in this session. In towards turn 5, break at the 50-meter, will throw the car and down to gear 3, then back on the power nice on the exit. As you head up towards TV3 at the chicane, uphill, left, right, you're going to make sure you can get yourself there very nicely, and Yana does a very nice job of getting yourself there through cleanly. In towards turn 9, the right hander, just throw the car and use that curb for rotation. As you now head down in towards with the DRS into turn 10, brake just before the 50-meter ball, throw the car in a little bit of a drift if you can, just to throw the re-rate so you can get the power down nice early on the exit. Then in towards turns 12 now, in gear 4, just want to coast the car through, be careful with the throttle. You head down in towards the final 2 corners through turn 13, then in towards the new turn 14. Try and keep it flat if you can. In gear 7, back with the DRS, then to the line, and it is a 10.349 for Yana Watman. I did see in the chat someone said Yana will take pole with a 348. So 1,000th off.
Yeah, and that's his first lap of the session. I mean, that is a statement from Yana Watman. He's going to have time for 1, potentially 2 more runs in this session to try and extend that advantage at the top of the order. Jack West then coming through the final corner. Can he get close to Yana Watman? We'll see what he can do as he approaches the line. It's a 1 minute 10.834. Nowhere near the Dutchman at the minute. So Jack West, he might have made a mistake on that lap or something or other. But yeah, he's nowhere near Yana Watman at the moment. Joseph Loke currently on a lap in the second sector. 49.702 for him. He locks up heavily through turn number 10. He is losing the car ever so slightly through 11 and 12. We'll see if he's able to keep it straight through here. Oh, so close to going off the circuit, invalidating. That is the extremities that you have to use around this track. Is now through the final corner. Joseph Loke is going to come. We'll see what he can do. Can he challenge Yana Watman? He's almost going to perfectly insert himself in between Watman and Jack West. It's P2 for Joseph Loke with a 1 minute 10.544. But it's been a very quiet start to Q2 with just under 8 minutes left to go in this session. Only a few laps on the board. Alvaro Caraton will be up next.
Yeah, Alvaro was about 10th down in the first sector compared to what Yano did. It was a 3.63 for Alvaro, it was a 2.55 for Yano. And Alvaro in sector 2 does a 49.7, and that is with the first sector combined. We'll see what he can do in this session. Does go purple, however, on my screen in this section, but we sometimes know that the map on the bottom right isn't always correct when it says purple sectors. So we'll see what type of time that Alvaro Caraton can set in his Williams, his teammates there at the session. Even though he's in the top 10, we'll see. Can his teammate try and take that provisional pole? No, he can't, but he can take a provisional front row with a 3.91. Valentin Bruffair's on a lap time coming through towards turn 5, and I think Nicolas Longuet is the next cross line, but he's only back down at the exit of turn 9 in towards turn 10 with the DRS. What can Nicolas do in that second sector? It is about, I think, 8 thousandths quicker or something than what Alvaro Caraton did. So these two are going to be very close. We'll go through the finale part of this lap with Nicolas Longuet through turn 12. Bit squirrely through there in towards turn 13, then in towards turn 14. You want to keep it flat through here in gear 7, just slow the car and use that curve for that rotation on entry. Then on the exit, run wide up to the line. It will be P3 for Nicolas Longuet.
Nice time from Nico there to go just ahead of Joseph Loke, but he's not close enough to be really fighting with Yana Watman and Alvaro Caraton, his teammate. Isfan Pookie comes across the line, 1 minute 10.354. Gets himself just a few thousandths off the back of pole time for the time being. As Valentin Bruffair comes across the line, 1 minute 10.478. Nice enough from him. Fabrizio Donoso is on a lap and he's purple in the first sector, but he's run wide through turn number 4 off the exit. Dips 2 tyres into the grass. Hopefully it's not going to cause too much trouble on his lap in towards now turn number 6 TV3. Be very careful on the cuts on the inside, really attacking turn number 6 there, and he's done that very nicely indeed. We'll see what he can do if he's going to be able to reap those rewards of his efforts there. Now through in towards the final sector. Yeah, he's not quick at all anymore, unfortunately. 50.206 for Fabrizio Donoso. Very disappointing considering he's purple in Q2 in sector 1. But unfortunate that he lost that time in Q2, and I think he is going to come across the line to complete this lap. Marco Soriano also on a lap just ahead of him. 1 minute 10.577 for Marco, so 10.5 for Fab. And he's definitely going to need to come into the pit lane for another run. But now with everyone finishing their laps and just about 5 minutes left to go in this session, we see Yana Watman coming to begin another lap through here. I think now is a good time to ask everyone in the live chat what you think the pole time is going to be, and most critically, who is going to set it. There is actually a poll running as well for your guesses as to who you think is going to be taking that top spot in qualifying. It seems like Yana Watman completely dominating that vote.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They were on his final, well, probably his final run here in this session, coming through in towards turn 3. You'll head down towards turn 4 at Repsol, a couple of cars in the way. I think that's one of the McLarens. Hopefully we'll move out the way there for Yano. 6 thousandths up in that first sector with a 21.249, so still an improvement. He needs an improvement because he's only got Istvan Pukki about 6 thousandths behind, so very close between the top two. And any gap for Yano isn't, any small gap for Yano isn't good. He needs to increase that gap as much as he can. As he heads through towards TV3 at the chicane, a bit of a slide through there, but he keeps the power down as he heads through. He needs to turn out the right hander, just keep that car to the inside line on the entry, then run wide on the exit, get that DRS open as you head down in towards that turn 10, 1 thousandths down for Yano, so very close to his previous time, but still he needs a mega final sector if he wants to improve on his lap time. Otherwise he's going to be under immense pressure from the likes of Istvan Pukki and Alvaro Carreton, who are within the same tenth of a second through turn 13. Then to the final corner, and Yano enters the pits now. I think he might just have time to get out on track and have another lap. I think Marcos Serrano's entered the pit, yes he is, and Joseph Floki's on an out lap, so he will be doing a lap. So yeah, Yano just have enough time just to get back into the pits, but could have been an improvement for Yano, and well, it'd be quite sad that he couldn't get it done, because he was down in that third, and I think then it kind of threw him off after that downtime in sector 2.
I think he's looking at the bigger picture here. In that there's track evolution. It's very potent on this new game, and I think he's just tested the waters, possibly on a fresh set. I think he's going to have one extra to complete his final run. Currently on 1 minute 10.349. It's going to be very difficult to improve on that, but if there is track evolution, there's more grip on the circuit, then Jarno Opmeer is going to be able to improve on that time a little bit easier on that lap and potential, and have greater upside potential than what that run was. So I think it is smart from Jarno Opmeer to come into the pit lane. Still got plenty of time in this session with 3 minutes left to go. Joseph Loke is beginning what I believe is his final run. He might have fueled up this car for 2 laps just in case he makes a mistake along this first attempt, but it is looking pretty nice so far for Joseph Loke. Looks very smooth as we watch him through the second sector. We'll ride on board with him through turn, and I'm really attacking that inside right-hander. We'll see what he can do then through the second sector. What's his improvement? He is ever so slightly down in the first and second sector. However, it is appearing to be purple for him. So possibly Joseph Loke, if he finds an improvement in this final sector, his time could be very difficult to beat, as now he's currently on a 1 minute 10.544 for him through the final corner of turn number 14 at Catalunya to come across the line. What's it going to be for Joseph Loke? He finds an improvement, but it's not enough to get himself up the grid. He'll stay P6 for the time being.
Oh, that is a crash there with Alvaro Carreton. I think it was Fabrizio Donoso on an outlap in the way, and Alvaro went through, and yeah, Fabrizio didn't move, so Alvaro went into the back of him. So big shame that's Alvaro out, but Joseph was down by a tenth and a half in the first sector. So that's considering he actually improved, that could have been possibly a fight for pole, but yeah, that is a big shame there for Carreton. And Fabrizio heading through. Yeah, kind of didn't move out the way at turn 3, and Alvaro obviously was sticking to his lap time thinking, come on, Fabrizio, move, and he didn't, so in the end, Alvaro just went into the back of him, unfortunately, so that's Alvaro out, so can't improve. And now everyone's on out laps, Jarno Opmeer included, so he was down by 1,000 on that second run, so he has got time to go again, and now the track's evolved a bit more, hopefully. He can extract a little bit more out of that setup on that Mercedes, and we'll see what he can do. But yeah, I think the first one to set laps on will be Nicolas Longue.
Yeah, I think Fabrizio Donoso, if he's saying if it's what happens is what you're describing, then that is a slam dunk penalty for Fabrizio Donoso in the next race. I believe it's probably going to be a qualifying ban. I think that is how it works, because you can't actually take a race penalty for something that happens in quali. So disappointing to say the very least for both Fabrizio Donoso and Alvaro Carreton. But we'll watch Jarno Opmeer on his final attempt. Nicolas Longue is ahead of him on circuit. Joseph Loke coming into the pit lane. We'll see what the Dutchman can do. Currently P1 at the minute on a 1 minute 10.349. The championship leader approaches turn number 1. We'll watch him drift over to the left-hand side, break just a little grey bit of tarmac through there, and then in towards turn number 2 and 3, where he's going to take this long-winded right-hander uphill through here, run out wide ever so slightly, scroll minimal speed as possible. Is he improving in that first sector? He's down ever so slightly by just half a tenth of a second. There is still margins for improvement for Jarno Opmeer on this lap as he heads through the second sector. We'll take a nice off-board shot to see him through this flowing, this technical second sector in towards turn number 6 at TV3, where you have to be so careful of the curves. Jarno Opmeer taking this track brilliantly. The clock has struck 0. No new laps can be started at the minute. I believe Mirko Soriano was the last man to get across the line as Jarno Opmeer finds an improvement in the second sector. He's up by just over a quarter of a tenth of a second. Nicolas Longe in the final sector, just ahead of him, will be coming through the final corner now to complete his lap, but we are still watching the Dutchman as we've got 3,500 people watching in the live chat to potentially see Jarno Opmeer on pole position here in Spain. Nicolas Longe can't go to the top of the order because it's Jarno Opmeer on pole position for the time being. A 1 minute 10.283 from him. Fantastic effort from the Dutchman. Istvan Pukki can't find an improvement. He can't get close to the Dutchman. Valentin Bruffair comes across the line, but he can't find an improvement either. Fabrizio Donoso, no improvement from him. It's a very anticlimactic ending to this qualifying session. Mirko Soriano will be the last man to come across the line, but he's got really no hope at all of catching Jarno Opmeer. That is a fantastic lap from the Dutchman. We'll see what Soriano can do as he comes across the line. I couldn't see that one there, but it certainly was not pole position. Jarno Opmeer going to be starting on top here in qualifying. Incredible effort from him to get himself way out ahead of anyone else. Look at the gap there, 700th of a second to Istvan Pukki, when Nathan, so far this session in Q1 and Q2, we've seen times within 100th of each other. That is an incredible effort from Jarno Opmeer.
It is to be to be 70 thousandths ahead of P2 and a tenth ahead of P3. That is great for Jarno, and obviously could also be the fact that people make mistakes, but still doesn't take away the fact Jarno could keep that consistency, keep going faster and faster, and get himself across on without invalidating, without crashing. He did a very nice job there to take that pole position. And also a big surprise for me is Nicolas Longe. Down in P5, he's got Jack West, Alvaro, and Istvan Pukki all ahead, and I think with the way this grid is shaping up, it'll be quite an interesting Grand Prix.
Absolutely. Back over to the intermission screen real quick now to just discuss qualifying. I mean, Jarno Opmeer, he was down in the first sector, Nathan. He lost time. I think in the first corner, he sort of missed his apex on the inside, I think, at turn number 1 ever so slightly. I didn't want to say anything because I thought, if I mentioned that he made a mistake, he was going to make more or something. But, yeah, I'm very, what's the word? I forgot the word that I'm thinking about here.
Optimistic.
Optimistic. No, it's, oh my god, I'm completely blanking on what I'm thinking. Salt over the shoulder, superstitious. That's it.
There we go.
I was thinking of sort of being superstitious. If I didn't bring it up, then Jarno Opmeer, he wouldn't have made a mistake on the rest of his lap, and I think it worked because that was an incredible effort from him. 1 minute 10.2, where no one else was able to get close to him. Istvan Pukki, 700ths off. It is an incredibly close margin, but that is just incredible to see that Jarno Opmeer on pole position when so far I think he has kind of struggled with qualifying pace throughout this season. The championship leader does a fantastic job.
He does. I think also we saw last year in esports, obviously. Last year we saw the fact he was also not always up to it in qualifying. So to take pole here by nearly a tenth of a second on a track which has been quite close, especially through Q1 and Q2, was a great effort for Jarno, and a well-deserved effort to put himself onto pole and hopefully get himself a victory here, as I believe we will be having a restart. Yeah, as we have the migrating host. So, the fun and games begin again. Due to people getting the stupid penalties that the game gives out, we have to have a lobby restart. So, well done, lobby restart is back in order yet again for probably what round is this? Round 9? So, probably for the 9th time in a row.
I mean, I thought it was actually getting a patch very soon, but lo and behold, we are still here. But nevertheless, we'll continue talking about qualifying. I mean, still, there's not been too many surprises in that session. I mean, it is a very different grid to what we see, so there's a lot less upset potential. But definitely, I'd say the big name to be in a lower position than we think is Jake Benham, starting down in 17th position. He's had a disastrous qualifying, where his teammates set it on pole. Do you think that's going to knock his confidence heading into this race?
Well, I think he's got to try something different. Being down in 17th, you've got to try a different strategy, whether that's maybe going onto a softer Toro compound to try and work your way up, or maybe going hard compound time doing an overcut. I think Jake's definitely going to try something different. I can't imagine him trying to do the same as Jarno, because I think Jarno will be doing the strategy which will be best for the win. Jake's will need to be the best just for, I'd say, longevity on the tyres. Get yourself as much up the grid as you can, whether that's going on a soft compound and rushing through, or going on hard and staying out longer. He's got to try something different. He's got to get himself through the field, and I think with a lot of normally slower drivers being ahead of him, he's got a decent chance of getting himself up through. But we know it's a difficult track, especially for overtaking, and also we know the driving standards could also pose an issue. So Jake, yeah, he's got a long race ahead of him, but I think with his race pace, which is always great, I think he's definitely got a chance of a top 10.
Yeah, let's have a talk about what happened in Q3 between Fabrizio Donoso and Alvaro Carreton. I didn't quite catch it. I was watching Joseph Loke on the end of his lap, but by the way you described it, I mean, Fabrizio Donoso looks like he's just completely zoned out or something, and Alvaro Carreton, he has right of way. He's on a lap, and if Fab can't get out of the way, then Fabrizio Donoso, Alvaro Carreton, he's not at fault there, surely.
Oh no, I think we've seen it happen before. Normally, what people do is they'll keep completing a lap. If the person doesn't move, they'll crash into the back of them. It's something we see often. I think it's normally the hopes of this person hopefully moves at the last minute. Obviously, Fabrizio was either just sitting there not paying attention, which I think is the most likely thing. I don't think he would have done it on purpose, not Fabrizio's type of thing to do. So yeah, probably just a lack of judgment and maybe not focusing too much. So big shame. Obviously, got Alvaro at the session, and I think with Alvaro being very close to Jarno's time, I think within a tenth, Alvaro could have fought for pole, so it'll be a bigger bummer. But he's only 2 positions behind. If he can get his fun into turn 1, he's then only got Jarno ahead. And obviously, we know around every track on this game near enough that the DRS is always optimal. You want to stay behind. If you want to win, you've got to be in second on that final lap. So hopefully, for the person in second, whether that's Istvan Alvaro or someone else in the field, they've got an advantage over the person in first, which I think at this point is looking likely to be Jarno because his pace so far has been ecstatic the whole qualifying. And I think if you can extract that into the race, he's going to be a difficult one to beat today.
Yeah, absolutely. And heading into this one now, I think it's a good time, more than ever, to ask for everyone's predictions in the live chat. I mean, we've got really nothing else to do at the minute. Who is going to be taking victory in this Grand Prix? Let us know your thoughts in the chat. And actually, whilst you're there, leave your top 3 in this race. Who is going to be taking a podium position in this Grand Prix? That includes first, second, and third. Nathan, going to pose that question to you. Who's your victor today?
Alvaro Carreton. I feel bad for him in qualifying, so I think he'll be able to get a P1 today. He's got only 2 cars ahead, Istvan and Jarno. I think Istvan will be a bit easier to get through him, but I think Jarno will be a real challenge. But I think he can do it. I think with the right strategy, Alvaro will win. What about you, Dan?
I'm glad that you've said Alvaro Carreton because that allows me to say Jarno Opmeer. I've gone with him in qualifying. I'm going to stick by him in the race, and I think he is going to take victory. He's been the man to beat so far this season. No one could touch him in qualifying either. And, heading into this one, he's got 2 wins on the board. Why not make it a third in Spain? Read out some of people's responses in the live chat. We've got Michael Marlowe saying Opmeer first. Second is Longe. Third, Joseph Loke. Got Titus saying Goatmere for P1. I'll read out some of the others. Matt Way saying Jarno, Nico, and Siriano. That'd be very nice indeed to see. Adrian has gone with Jarno, Otis, and Benham. That is a very bold prediction considering that Otis Lawrence isn't actually racing this evening. Path is saying Opmeer, Pookie, and then Longe or Carreton. I think Carreton is definitely going to be the one that people are sleeping on in this one, considering he didn't get a lap in qualifying at the end. I think he could have definitely been starting on the front row alongside Jarno Opmeer and potentially fighting for pole position. So I think Alvaro Carreton, he has got a very good chance of fighting Jarno Opmeer in this race. But I'm going to stick with my guns and say that Opmeer takes victory today.
Yeah, and I've seen people in the chat talk about Lucas. Just to confirm, Lucas has been doing IRL racing today, Formula 4, and he has, if any of you didn't know, he did get a win. I think it was the 3rd race. So, yeah, he's done a very good job, IRL. I'm sure he'd rather be there than be here racing. So, yeah, that's why he's not racing. Ron Harbley was doing some karting, so that's why he's not here. So, yeah, a couple of people missing. But, yeah, still a lot of people who can fight for wins and still some very quick drivers here tonight, and I keep seeing more people predicting that Otis will get on the podium.
He's
not even here.
It'll be difficult for him this evening. I think he's disappointed in qualifying. Starting 21st, it's going to be difficult for Otis Lawrence to take victory this evening. Yeah. But we're only playing around. Of course, Otis Lawrence serving his race ban. I believe he got 2 race bans for the incident in Qatar. Hopefully next week it's going to be a clean slate for him. He's served his penalty. He's done his time, as they like to call it. And, you know, we're going to take it with a fresh perspective. Heading into next week, I believe it was Italy, but I don't know if it's... oh, no, it's actually not. It's the Netherlands, then it's Italy. So we're headed to Zandvoort next week. That's definitely going to be a bit of an interesting circuit for driving standards. But so far in qualifying, it seems like there wasn't many penalties. I mean, of course, that goes down to the game glitching and then giving the guys penalties. But there wasn't actually that many heading into Q1, Q2 and Q3. So... fingers crossed, Nathan. Driving standards are good today.
Yeah, well, I think there should be around a track like this. It's quite an easy track to go side by side. You can go 3 wide around here. So if you end up going 2 wide and crashing out, then I think the fault's on the racecraft of the drivers involved. So yeah, I think generally we should see better racecraft. And if we don't, well, it's a recurring issue. And well, it seems to normally, not going to mention names, be common offenders. So hopefully they don't repeat the same today if they're racing. But yeah, I think it should be fine around here. It's a nicer track than the likes of like Saudi Arabia, Monaco, Hungary, Netherlands, all tracks where it's difficult to race side by side. Around here it's quite easy. Hence, you know, it's also a nice track with lots of different elements. It's easy to race on, hence why it's, you know, the official F1 testing track. It's the best of them all for every aspect to put into one. So yeah, I think it should be a lot cleaner. But obviously we'll see that when the race starts. 33 laps. It's quite a long race, and according to WOR says in the chat, dry, cloud, heavy rain.
Oh, wow.
Oh, now that is interesting. So thank you. Right. I don't know if that was meant to be done on purpose, because I know there was a whole thing about the weather. So if that was done on purpose to spice it up, well done and thank you. But if not, if that was how it was meant to be already, well, it's going to be interesting. Very interesting. Do we see Russia 2021 make a return?
Maybe. I wonder what we're going to see heading into this race. Just before we get underway, someone's asked for the championship standings. You can see them on your screen. Jarno, pole sitter this evening, is currently leading the championship standings. His championship rival, his main one at the moment, Lucas Blakely, of course, not racing this evening. He was at Brands Hatch this weekend, so Nicholas Longay's got a good opportunity to overtake Blakely for P2, but he has got to get more than 20 points in this race. It was definitely going to be a tough one for him there. You can see the rest of them on your screen. I'll bring us now back over to the game scene. Just loading into the race. Will Lewis is the last one to bring us in. We've got the grid sorted. We're readying up. We're about to get underway. It is going to be a cracking Grand Prix. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Right, I don't like to be an amateur, but has Jarno won a championship here before?
He has. What was it? Season 13. I'm pretty sure. Season 13? Yeah, season 13 was Jarno Ottmere taking the championship in the final race at Abu Dhabi. He was fighting, what was it, with Thomas Ronhaar and then Ruben Pedreño. Then the next season, Thomas Ronhaar was able to take the gold, and I think it looks like Jarno Ottmere, so far this season, Nathan, all things are pointing towards him taking the his second championship on PC.
Yeah. I think with him being pretty much 50 points ahead of Nicholas, and he's 20 points ahead of Lucas, but should be able to, if he gets even the top 3, put that gap to about 30 points, 35 points. I think if he was to lose a championship, if he can attend every race, I think he'd be quite disappointed now. I think he's that far ahead. He's got a very good chance, and the odds are definitely in his favour. But obviously, we know it's league racing. Anything can happen. Even if he turns up to the next 3 races, he could end up DNFing them all. You don't know what's going to happen. It's the life of league race. You could be the quickest driver, but you might not even get a top 10 in any race in a season. So yeah, we'll see what Jarno can do today, and you've got to wait for the players because there is no countdown anymore, unfortunately, on the game.
It's very annoying that we don't get the countdown anymore. We've got just about 3,000 people watching. If you are just joining us, we're about to get ready for this race to begin. We have a nice sunny start here in Spain, but soon the clouds will begin to cover, and then we will have heavy rain towards the end of the race. It should make for some unpredictable strategies, maybe some guys going different on the setups. We'll have to wait and see how it all works out. We're just waiting for a few more drivers to ready up, and there we are now. The lights are coming on here in Spain, getting ready to start this race. And we are green here in Spain. Jarno with a good start, heading down in towards turn at number 1. Isfan Pukki going to slot in behind the Mercedes, trying to cover off Alvaro Carreton, who's got to run potentially in towards turn at number 1. Jarno darting towards the inside line. We're watching Nicholas Longay go all the way around the outside of Alvaro Carreton. So close to contact between the pair of them as they head through turn at number 3. Everyone has got through the first few corners very cleanly indeed. The 2 McLarens fighting it out for 7th and 8th. They're going to run side by side as now Ismail Fassi, I believe, at the back of the order has gone into a spin. There goes Nicholas Longay Longe for the move on Alvaro Caraton, getting ahead, but it is Istvan Pukki on the soft compounder tyres, getting ahead of Jarno Opmeer, taking the lead in the second sector.
Yeah, and that's also Donoso dropping all the way down to 18th, but very nice there. Obviously, soft tyres for the two Ferraris, and that's working very well. The two McLaren swapping down at P7 and P8 between Mirko and Joseph, but very clean starts, considering we've got many people on soft who will be a lot quicker looking to work them way through. Obviously, Philippe and Andre down in 10th and 11th. That's a bit of a send there from Joseph Loke into turn 10 on Mirko Soriano. Mirko going to try and fight back. No, he can't do anything just yet. Now that opens Shanaka Clay into an opportunity to get ahead of at least one of the McLarens, who obviously started down in P10. Shanaka did after an issue in qualifying, looking to get himself through the field. Everyone on hards pretty much, so surprisingly not many mixed strategies, something I would have expected to see more of, as Philip Preshned looking to get ahead of the Williams into turn 1. He's got the inside line, but also that is nearly 3 wide into that first corner. It's Shanaka to the inside of Mirko Soriano into that first corner. Mirko keeps himself just a car ahead, as now it's Philip trying to go on the different line. They're going to go 3 wide nearly into turn 3, and it's Philip Preshned on the outside line to Mirko Soriano and Shanaka Clay. Shanaka tries to go up the inside, can't do anything, and now still it's Mirko in 8th, Shanaka in P9, and Philip Preshned into P10, but we're going to go 3 wide nearly to turn 5. There's a bad exit there, turn 4 for Mirko Soriano. Shanaka Clay around the outside. Can he get anything to work? No, he can't just yet.
Well, it's been a very eventful opening 2 laps in this race, but it's been relatively clean throughout the entirety of it. We'll have a look at the position changes. Andrei Tarabukian on his set of the soft compounder tyres has jumped up 7 places in this Grand Prix so far. He's having a cracking showing at the moment. There's Nicolas Longe to the inside of Jarno Opmeer at the end of the second DRS straight along this circuit. Of course, no DRS for the time being. Further back behind, they're still scrapping it out for 9th position. Andrei Tarabukian this time all the way around the outside. Is now that's Philip Preshned dipping a few tyres in towards the gravel, because Shanaka Clay has run him out wide ever so slightly. I think it is mostly clean there. Fair racing, I'd say, and Philip Preshned is still right in behind. He should be able to take the fight to the Williams in the next few runs, because of course on those softs it's still going to be in great condition at the minute. But at the front of the order, Istvan Pukki leading from Nicolas Longe in second. Jarno Opmeer, the lead hard runner in this Grand Prix. He just has to do his best to stick with these 2 Ferraris as best he can, and then make sure that he is right behind them when they come into the pit lane. We'll see what happens in this race as we continue. Lap number 3 of 33. Nathan, is still a long way to go here.
It is, and looking at the people on the softs, this fan moved up 1 position, Nicholas 3, Philippe 2, and then Andrei Tarabukian 9 positions gained. That is a perfect strategy on the softs, and that's the type of execution you want on the softs. Every time you go for that alternate strategy, you want to be getting yourself 8-9 positions, which Andrei's done well. Philippe, it hasn't worked as well for him. He's only moved up 2. He's looking to get himself ahead of the Williams, but not close enough yet, as that's Andrei now moving up 10 positions ahead of Mirko Soriano into P8 now. And what a drive it is so far from Andrei Tarabukian. I don't want to jinx it, because if knowing what I've just said, he'll end up being round at the final corner in a second. But he's coming through. 8 to turn 13 to turn 14. He's 4 tenths behind Valentin Brufaro, who's about 8 tenths back from Joseph Loke. So yet again should be a pretty easy overtake with Andrei on these softs ahead of him.
Yep, there goes Philip Preshned to the inside of Shanaka Clay. He spent a little bit too long looking at the rear diffuser of the Williams, but he's finally got himself into that top 10. Now he'll be hunting down Mirko Soriano for the next few laps. But yeah, it's definitely not been the best start for Philip Preshned. Andrei Tarabukian has done a fantastic job of getting his way up the order on the set of the soft compounder tyres. We know that Deg is very high around this circuit as well, so I'd expect in the next few laps for those soft to completely die out. Then it's going to be up to the hard runners to try and take the advantage and really grab it by the horns, as now we're seeing more pit stops at the minute, as Tom Manley is on the set of the soft compounder tyres. I think he might have picked up some damage. Jed Norgrove and Xander Van Dyken have both come on for a set of the mediums as well. Xander's actually pitted once again 2 times in 4 laps. So I don't know what is going down at Haas at the minute, but it's not been a good day at the office for Xander.
No, it's not. Well, he's 20 seconds behind. He must have got wind damage on that first lap, and he's pitted again, so it's his second pit stop. Jedi must have had an incident on lap 1 as well, and also Tom Manley hasn't pitted, but he's 27 seconds back. I think he's got a bit of damage on his AlphaTauri. He's driving. It seems like he's going very, very wide into corners. Obviously, a lot of understeer when you get damage in these cars with the front wings being, well, the damage on these front wings, you wouldn't think they cause so much harm, but they do to the driver, and it's really difficult to, you know, keep up with anyone when you've got a broken front wing. So big shame for all those that have had to pit due to that, but everyone else who has made it through are having a great race so far, as Andrei Tarabukian yet again still trying to get closer to the other, well, he's a teammate in the Alfa Romeo of Valentin Brufaro, who's 4 tenths up the road. Then about 5 tenths ahead of him is Joseph Loke, who's yet again, along with Jack West, also had very nice starts. Not always at the front of Tier 1, not always racing here in Tier 1, but today they're doing a very good job to do so. And also, the two Ferraris working well at the front, but the issue they're going to face soon is they'll have to pit at different laps. If there's a safety car, they're going to be in a bit of trouble.
And of course, Istvan Pukki, he is a reserve this evening, so really, he's not actually scoring any points for Ferrari. So, in terms of Nicolas Longuet, the way I see it is that he is just an inconvenience for him. So they are really not teammates this evening, despite both of them being in the Ferrari car. So I think Nicolas Longuet, come pit stop time, he's going to want to be ahead of Istvan Pukki because he needs all the points he can to get ahead of Lucas Blakely. You know, the only way he's actually going to be able to get himself ahead of the Scot in the McLaren is by winning this race. Is now in towards turn number 1 indeed, with the DRS and some ERS potentially. He goes up the inside and has a clean overtake for the lead. Nicolas Longuet leads this Grand Prix on lap number 6. Jan Altmeier's got the best seats in the house. He's dropping off ever so slightly to the two Ferraris, but I think if he's got better pace than Istvan Pukki, he's going to do perfectly fine in keeping with these two guys. But maybe they're going to look to try and slipstream off each other or something or other, and maybe get away from Jarno Altmaier. We'll have to wait and see how this race develops. Looking further back behind, Joseph Loke on the back of Jack West, but being in this DRS train, Nathan, it makes it very difficult for these guys to overtake under these green flag conditions and on the straights.
It does, and also a bit of an incident there for Jake Benning. Went side by side with Duncan Hoffland into turn 1, went a little bit deep, then he had a bit of a bounce on the yellow curb, bounced him across and ended up knocking Fabrizio De Noso off track, so hopefully there's no damage for either of them. But I think it was more the fact Jake got hit off that curb, and you got no control when you get hit on a curb. You just bounce over and it bounced him all the way over the other side of the track, and Fabrizio went off track just to avoid it. But I don't think there's much harm done there, but obviously it depends what angles we got, and our camera angle always seems to look harsh on any incident. It always looks worse than it actually is on these camera angles, because F1, well, EA never make the camera angles well, so you see someone crash, it looks really weird. As Istvan Pukki takes the lead of the race ahead of Nicolas Longuet. And Jarno Altmaier is looking for a move into turn 1. No, he's not close enough just yet. Obviously on the hard tyres, Jarno in about 4 or 5 laps time will be quicker, or should be quicker, than these guys on the softs, but for now will be a little bit slower, because obviously these softs have a bit of an advantage of them being a softer compounded tyre. I don't know how, but they are better.
Istvan and Nico, they've not done enough here to get away from the hard runners, and now Jarno Altmaier's got them right in his crosshairs, and I think that the hard compounded tyres strapped on to the likes of Jarno Altmaier, Alvaro Carton and Jack West, I think they're going to be equal, if not better, than the softs of Istvan Pukki and Nicolas Longuet. Andrei Tarabukin, he's stopped making progress in this race, and in fact, he's actually losing time to his teammate Valentin Bruffaert. Philip Prejnader's losing time to Mirko Soriano, so I think this is the passing of the guard in this race, where the softs are beginning to die out. The hards are really doing a good job of phasing into this Grand Prix, and so Istvan Pukki, Nicolas Longuet, they're going to have to think about their pit stop very soon. Jarno, Alvaro, Jack, they're all fine for a good part of this race. Around about lap number 20, 22, in that window is when they're going to think about their pit stop. We'll see in towards turn number 1 if Nico's going to go for a move on his teammate this evening. They've swapped every single lap so far that they've been fighting under the DRS, and there it is up the inside in towards turn number 1. Istvan Pukki not putting up a defence at all heading into that first corner. Nicolas Longuet back into the lead of the race. Jarno Altmaier still cooking behind.
Well, to be fair, I think this soft strategy might work. So we know there's rain on the way, or probably there is rain on the way. If it comes early enough, we might have to pit for inters or wets. The issue that poses for the people in the hards now is they've got to pit rain lap 20, something like that on these hards. Go to a set of soft. The overcut, we know, generally is a lot slower at the start. You will drop back a little bit further. So for lots of Nicolas and Istvan, they can pit lap 10, go, what, 20, well, about 15 laps on those hards. Then we might have to have the chance for rain and then inters and wets. They've probably already ahead of the likes of Jarno and Alvaro and that, because obviously they've had to pit. They've got to drop down further with the overcut being worse at the start. So actually, I think if the rain comes around lap 25-26, this is in the hands of the soft runners at the moment.
Yeah, well, that is the big question. I mean, we know that there is rain on the way at some point in this race. It's gone sunny, then into the clouds, and it is definitely looking a little bit more overcast up ahead, and I'm seeing it gets a little bit darker along the circuit, so I think we are within those cloudy conditions. It's just a question, Nathan, of when we see that rain begin to fall. And we'll see Istvan Pukki right now on lap number 9 go up the inside once again for the 4th lap in a row. The two Ferraris going to swap positions at the front of the order. Mirko Soriano on the back of Andrei Tarabukin in towards turn number 1. Those softs completely dying out on the Alfa Romeo. I think he's definitely had a hard job of having to overtake a lot of drivers in this Grand Prix. So, those sides are definitely going to be a lot more dead down the likes of Pookie and Longay. But at this point, Nathan, lap number 9 of 33, everyone is getting closer to each other. But I don't know if we're going to see too many battles. I think we're mostly just settling into a bit of a mid-race lull. It kind of does happen every single race where everyone's got into their rhythm. They don't want to overtake at this point. But once the pit stops begin to come out, Nathan, that is when we're going to see pandemonium along the circuit.
Yeah, I think the only ones who are close in contention are probably Alvaro down to Joseph. I know Joseph was about a tenth behind Jack going towards that first sector, but never close enough to get a move done as he actually went nearly very deep and nearly hit the back of Jack West in towards turn 10, but did stop the car just in time that also. But Valentine Barofero right to his tail. 3 tenths back it is between Valentine and Joseph, and then a little bit further ahead Jack West looking to get himself ahead of Alvaro Carlton, and now the soft tyre is actually starting to put a bit of a gap to you on me. The gap's just under 8 tenths of a second. The gap was about 2 beforehand, so now these soft tyres probably reliving what they had before, and they're able to push a little bit more as Nicholas Longo takes the lead again into turn 1. But yeah, these softs working again, surprisingly, as now, yeah, you can see Mirko, he's starting to slowly drop back yet again from Andrew Trabuchin. So it's like these tyres have like different levels.
It is weird. I'm not too sure how the tyres actually work on this game. I'm looking at the ERS situations. Nico's got 60%, Istvan has got 70%, but Jan Ortman's got 90% in the back of his Mercedes. So maybe they pushed away a little bit to try and stretch that advantage as much as they can. Maybe Nico's planning to pit on this lap, or very soon at some point has got cautions at the back of the grid. That's Jake Benham going for a spin at turn number 5. Something's happened there. I wonder if there's contact between himself and Fabrizio Donoso, who's really dropped off the back of the grid. And we saw earlier on in this Grand Prix that there was a little bit of contact between the pair of them. Maybe that's come back to bite him, but we didn't see it. For all we know, Jake Benham could have just dropped the car. Nevertheless, he is now way off the back of the pack, and he's now down in 16th position. It's going to be a massive ask for him to win this race. Nico's going to stay out. Istvan Pookie on lap number 10 coming into the pit lane. He's had enough of those softs.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect time for him to pit off those softs. Just before they start to die, you can get Yarkovs in second, so you know, it's better to pit before you have the likes of Jarno, Alvaro and Jack all fly past, because then you'll just lose more and more time. Nicholas probably will put this lap, if not next lap, but I wouldn't see him staying out any longer than that. There's no point at this point when you're on those soft tyres before you start to drop off. And Istvan onto mediums, so a soft medium strategy possible here for Istvan Pookie, as Andrei Trabuchin getting a little bit closer to the back of Valentine Barofero. 5-second penalty for Ishmael Fassi, but he's 26 seconds back from Istvan Pookie, so yeah, nothing he can really do there, is there? He's probably going to retire soon enough.
Unfortunate for Ismail Fassi. He looked really quick in the first session of Q1, but it's just all gone downhill for him. It's unravelled since Q2. He was eliminated from that session. He's really just not been able to recover in this race. So it's not been a good day at the office for Ismail Fassi or AlphaTauri at all. Running 18th and 19th at the minute. It's been a difficult day for those guys, but at the front of the order we're watching Jarno Opmeer on 10-lap-old hard tyres try to close down to Nicholas Longe. However, Nico's done a fantastic job of pulling that gap to almost ahead of a second. And as I say that, Nico's going to come into the pit lane and have a look at the ERS. He's actually not pushed at all on that lap, as now Andrei Trabuchin is the first man to get a time penalty in this Grand Prix on circuit for 3 warnings. Andrei Trabuchin and Philip Presnader all coming into the pit lane. That is going to unleash Jan Ortmeer at the front of the order. He is now your race leader here in Spain on lap number 12. Alvaro Carton in second. Third for Jack West. That'd be a fantastic result for Jack West if he's able to get himself on the podium on such a high caliber grid. And secretly, Nathan, I'm rooting for him today.
Yeah, I think he's going to do a great job. I think he's got a really good chance of doing something well. But we're just looking further down. Soft tyres for Andre and Philip. Now that tells us the rain's on the way shortly. Ulas, he's trying to get himself ahead of Shinako K for P7 and P8. But now you start to think, well, is the rain coming earlier than expected? If that's the case, maybe these hard tyres can make it to when the rain arrives. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult one to predict. But yeah, I think it's going to be quite an interesting ending, and if we see inters and wets they could play, that'll make it even better. So I can't wait to see what happens in this race. But you can see, Dan, lap after lap it's getting darker and darker. Yeah. You can see the grey clouds making an appearance, and rain probably 3 or 4 laps, maybe a little bit more away.
And Andrei Trabuchin and Philip Presnader, they're playing this very riskily at this point, because if the rain doesn't come in time for the wet tyres to be used, as now Alvaro Carton is looking to go for the lead of the race. He's up the inside of Jarno Opmeer. They'll be able to take that one very easily. Jarno didn't put up any defence whatsoever into that corner. So on lap number 13 of 33, Alvaro Carreton leads the way, and it is beginning to get very dark on circuit. We're going to have to watch the onboards as much as we can to see when the rain comes, but if it doesn't come at all, Andre Tarabukin and Philip Presley, they've gone from soft to soft tyres, so they're going to have to possibly use another set of, if the rain doesn't come, they're going to have to pit again, regardless of what happens. But I think at this point, the rain is imminent. It is just a matter of when it comes, Nathan.
Yeah, I don't think it's too far away, because you can just see it's getting darker and darker, and this is normally the type of lighting you see when the rain starts to arrive. As we head down in towards turn 10, Jack West on the back of Jarno Opmeer, trying to fight for that P2 spot, along with Joseph Floker is in P4. So yeah, maybe first I thought the soft tyres were in the best position, but with the track getting that dark that quickly, I think now the people on the hards have got the better strategy as we head down in towards the final corner. Jack West is very close to the back of Jarno Opmeer, trying to get himself ahead into P2. Not close enough this time, I don't think, as they head down into turn 1. Is Jarno quick enough to get ahead of Alvaro Carreton? Yes, he is. He doesn't make the overtake very easily, and Jack West a little bit further behind. Not close enough, however, to get himself ahead of the Williams. Looking further down, he's on Pookie, getting very close to the back of Jake Benham in towards turn 1. Now, is it the plan of Benham to try and hold people up?
Yeah, that is actually, well, he's not done a great job of keeping Istvan Pookie behind. The DRS was just impossible to defend from, but that is right. You are right in saying that. I mean, Jake Benham, he's way off the pace at the minute. He's not going to get any points in this Grand Prix. His teammate is leading the way at the minute, and his main rivals in this Grand Prix who are on alternate strategies to him, as if Malfassi comes into pit lane to retire. His main rivals are right down on the same piece of tarmac as him, so Jake Benham might do his best to try and hold up Nico and Istvan as much as possible. Istvan's already got away from him. However, Nicholas Longate right behind him on circuit with just 2-lap-old medium tyres. I think Jake Benham, he's got to do his best to keep Jarno Opmeer in the best position possible. Playing sort of that second fiddle role today. Sorry, as I have a little cough there. It's not something I like to say about Jake Benham, as now there's yellow flags down the main straight. That's for Ismail Fassi. That means Alvaro Carreton potentially can't go for that overtake heading in towards turn 1. Otherwise, they'll get an illegal overtake as they hit the first corner. He was going to make that move, I think, just before the yellow flags hit, but Ismail Fassi coming back onto circuit in a very dangerous position, I would say, but I believe that car is indeed ghosted. But yeah, Alvaro Carreton, Nathan, back in the lead.
Yeah, and well, Nicholas Longate is dispatched. Jake Benham for P13 and 14. Still that car in that middle, in that first sector, heading through towards turn 3. Hopefully it pulls over, probably down to turn 4, and Jake yet again having a bit of a snap going through turn 3. Could also be to just try and slow himself down ahead for Andre behind. Obviously, we know before what we said, I think it was in esports in Japan, Jake Benham did a great job of holding as many people up as he could. And I think Jarno Opmeer had an incident just after, so all that work was done for nothing. With the Mercedes crew, we know Jake can defend very well, but obviously on these hard tyres, 14 laps, so it's going to be difficult to hold anyone back in this Grand Prix who's all behind him as we come through. Jack West very close to the back of Jarno Opmeer, and also Joseph Black within 2 tenths as well. It seems like Jack has got some pace, but he isn't unleashing it yet. He can't get himself ahead of the Mercedes, and it looks like he wants to, because he looks a lot quicker and catching up in some corners where Jarno seems to be dropping back a little bit. I don't know if it's to save his tyres or maybe to save some ERS, but yeah, he's starting to drop back slowly. Likes of Jack and Joseph, who are sitting 3rd and 4th as Jarno Opmeer yet again takes the lead of the Grand Prix.
I think Jarno Opmeer's gone for a more straight line speed dependent setup, because Jack is catching him in the slower speed corners, especially in that 3rd sector, and then down the straights off the exit at the final corner. He just blitzes away from Jack West, and Jack doesn't have a bad exit by any means, so I think Jarno Opmeer is definitely, well, he's possibly running a lower downforce setup so he can get that better straight line speed. It is definitely very handy around this circuit, down that main straight and in towards turn number 10. But, it's also going to hamper him when the rain comes, where straight line speed isn't going to be as effective. You're going to want that downforce to be able to rotate the cars in through the corners. And when there's so many of them along this circuit, it might hinder him later in the Grand Prix. That's just one thing to think about, as Joseph Floker's on the back of Jack West heading in towards turn number 10. He's going to go up the inside into the braking zone. Heavy braking, locking up. I believe a double lock-up for Joseph Floke there. Bangs wheels with Jack West, but now they're going to run side by side through turn number 12 and possibly in towards turn number 13. This has sacrificed a lot of time for these two. It was a very late move, I think. No, Joseph Floke is a little bit sketch there to potentially go for that move. We'll see what he could do maybe down in towards turn number 1. Will he use any of his battery? Doesn't look like it, so they've just really sacrificed time to the two leaders who are going to be able to potentially swap positions at the front of the order. I think Alvaro Caraton are actually going to stay behind for the time being. They stay as they were, but it was definitely a touch and go overtake there for Joseph Loke.
Yeah, I don't know why he did it that early, as Nicholas Longo gets himself ahead of Isvan Pig. But yeah, I don't know why he went for it there at this point in the race. You want to stick as close as you can behind the likes of Alvaro and Yano at this point. Don't sacrifice 2 or 3 tenths of a second, because if you make another mistake again, you could end up being outside 1 second, which then ruins everything you've got in terms of trying to fight for that victory. So yeah, quite confusing why he did that. You could have thought maybe I'm a little bit too close to the back of Jack, I got more pace, but obviously broke a little bit late and it nearly hit the back of Alvaro Carlos and he sent him going round down turn 10. But luckily, Joseph timed it perfectly to get himself briefly ahead of the Red Bulls. We head down to turn 10 yet again. And looking further down, Ulas is right on the back of Shanaka Clay, very close, gets about 2 tenths of a second. Not close enough to go from moving to turn 12. And I don't think he'll be close enough into turn 13 either, or 14. So I think if Ulas wants to get himself ahead, he's going to have to do it down towards turn 1.
Well, I'm sorry, we're just watching the battle for the lead at the minute. It seems like Jack West has got a good run on Alvaro Caraton. As I think Caraton, he doesn't want to go for this move. You can see him lifting off, heading in towards the first corner. It's going to be stacking up everyone behind. The Shanaka Clay's looking for the move on Mirko Suriano for P6 at this point. This is sort of an 8-car, 9-car train at the moment. Duncan Hoffland is also keeping touch with these guys. So 10 drivers in the fight for the lead. You can see Ulasha Zildrim all over the back of Shanaka Clay, and he potentially looked up the inside line, and that would have been a very hairy move to go up the inside through there. It sort of tightens up midway through the corner, and I don't think both of them would have been able to get through. So it's good to see that Ulasha Zildrim has backed out there. Nevertheless, they remain as they were. We'll have a look at the position changes in this race. You can see Jarno Ottmere, the only driver who stayed in his starting position. Of course, we're yet to see some pit stops in this Grand Prix, but the biggest mover so far, Will Lewis and Andrei Tarabukin. Will Lewis had a silent but really deadly race in this one. He's up into P9 and in that top 10 and possibly in the lead fight, and who knows what can happen in here in WOR.
Well, anything can happen, and at the moment it looks like it will do, because the rain's come in. Then you've got to start to think which strategy works best. Is it the people who pitted, or is it the people who haven't? At this point, it's hard to call, but look at that gap between Nicholas and Duncan. It's coming down very quickly as they head down towards turn 1. The gap was about 8 seconds 2 laps ago. It's now 4 seconds as Alvaro Caraton takes the lead of the race, I believe, for one of the first times this race.
No, he's been swapping it out.
Oh wait,
a few times.
Mix it up with 2 Ferraris. My bad. I'm too tired.
It's been a lazy Sunday for myself as well. So I'm a little bit tired myself, but nevertheless, we continue along. I'm saying that quite a lot. I'll try and increase my range of vocabulary as we continue this race. Not too much is happening at the minute, so I think now is a good time to let everyone know in the live chat if you are enjoying. Make sure you do drop a like on the stream and a potential subscribe to WOR. It would be very helpful indeed as we continue along. We're just waiting for the rain to hit, and it is getting to a bit of a scary point for these hard runners where they are coming towards the end of their life. It's been almost 19 laps on this set of the tyres. Normally it's around about lap number 20 to 22. Maybe a little bit later if you are able to stretch the tyres as much as you can. That is sort of your pit window. But we're coming up to that point, Nathan, and the rain still hasn't hit. It's been very cloudy for the last maybe 10 or so laps, but no rain has come. So I'm just wondering, when is it going to hit?
Well, the rain's going to hit, but then when the rain hits, it's then going to get wet enough for you to have an into a wet tyre. So, yeah, it's a close one, isn't it? It's going to be a close one to call the Ferraris. Are either going to call it right perfectly, or they're going to be way off because they're still 3 seconds back. The rain's got to be at least another 4 or 5 laps if they want to get themselves back into a good position. Obviously, East was on the front row along with Jarno Ottmere. They are currently sitting 1st and 11th. Obviously, better tyres, newer tyres for Isam because he did pit earlier on. So, yeah, it's a hard strategy. As also Joseph Foot trying to get himself ahead of Jack West. Alvaro very close to the back of Jarno Ottmere, but lap 20, no signs of rain. The rain's got to hit. Then we're going to wait for it to get wet, so at least another 2 or 3 laps, I think. So it's going to be a hard one to call. Yeah. Very hard.
Absolutely. I mean, just look how close this lead train is. I'm going to quickly put up the gap to the leaders. From 1st down into 10th, it's 3 seconds. So if Jarno Ottmere was actually to get a penalty at this point, he would be sent all the way down into P10. It is incredible how close this grid really is, especially in race trim, as now Tom Manley comes into the pit lane and unfortunately retires from this race. That is another DNF in this one. He joins his teammate Ishmael Fassi in that retirement zone. As now Alvaro Caraton's going to look towards the inside line at turn number 1. He is back into the lead of this race himself, and Jan Ortme have done a fantastic job of swapping and changing that lead. Is now Nicolas Longue, who is, I guess, technically your net race leader in this race. He is not far off the back of the lead at all, as now Jan Ortme is actually going for the move once again around the outside of turn number 4. Jack West is getting involved, and he's going to try and soar all the way around the outside of Alvaro Caraton, heading in towards the second sector. I missed this overtake, but now at the inside, Jack West has got the line on Alvaro Caraton. He's lost 2 places in the space of just 3 corners. Joseph Loke looking to have a sniff in there. In towards the second sector they go, and I'm wondering, why is this? Why now are they choosing to make these moves? But Jan Ortme back into the lead of the Grand Prix. Jack West second, now Alvaro Caraton down to third.
And all it's doing is bringing these Ferraris closer and closer to the gap. 2.2 seconds between Istvan and Duncan Hofland. 3 laps ago it was about 4, so that gap is coming down very quickly, about 7 or 8 tenths a lap at this point. And now Jack West looks like he's going to fight for the lead. And is it the fact now that Jack just wants to get through and just try and unleash that pace that he's got? Or do they just want a bit of fun and games because they know the rain's not coming just yet? Just try and push and get as far away as we can from these throws who are closing in. Otherwise they're going to be under a lot of pressure. Lap 22 of 33. These guys are on 21 lap old hard tyres. The rain still hasn't hit. Jack West into turn 1 looking for lead of the race. Backs out into turn 1. Alvaro Caraton I think was looking for him but couldn't get close enough. Nicolas Longue takes that P11 away from his teammate. Istvan Pukki is now down to 12th, and Philip Brezhnev and Andrei Tybukin swapping down for P13 and 14. And looking back further up, still Jack West getting very close to Jarno but can't get himself through yet. And now this is looking worrying for these hard tyre runners.
Yeah, it seems like everything's flipping over. I was doubting the strategy earlier on. I thought the rain would come at an earlier point. However, it is still coming. And I think for the leaders, just having the buffer of so many cars in between themselves and Nicolas Longue and Istvan Pukki is really going to help them in this race. I really just can't call it at the moment. You saw, as we watched Jack West come through turn number 9, you saw the 2 Ferraris flash by on your screen through turn number 6. So it is incredibly close as Joseph Loke up the inside of Alvaro Caraton, heading in towards turn number 10. A very late move once again on the Spaniard. I think he caught Alvaro Caraton napping there. Now Joseph Loke up into third, a podium position for the reserve driver this evening. Alvaro Caraton once again is the victim of another overtake. We'll watch now the 2 leaders, Jan Ortme and Jack West, head down in towards turn number 1. Jack West had fantastic pace all evening long. He's now going to look towards the inside line of Alvaro Caraton, of Jan Ortme down at turn number 1, and he makes the move stick. Jack West for the first time in this race on lap number 23 of 33 leads this Grand Prix.
Yep, and then Nicolas Longue and some bigger up behind. The rains have arrived. I can see rain on my screen. On Nicolas Longue's on board. The rains have arrived now. The throwers have got to push. They've got to probably get one more lap in before this inter's coming. Look how quick it's coming down. The rain's already starting to throw it, and you can see it on my screen at least. All the particles of the rain, all the raindrops onto the screen now. It's this Nicolas Longue going for a move into turn 5. Couldn't get it done quick enough as there. You can see everyone start to slowly start to wiggle around as they're trying to get through this traction, because the rain, it causes so many issues for these slick tyres. The traction and the grip completely go, so now the throwers have got to push through, and this is going to be very close, and the pit stop could even be this lap, because look how quick it's coming down.
Oh, it's so scary. Nicolas Longue, he knows he's got to get a move on. Duncan Hofland defending towards the inside line at turn number 10. Nicolas Longue going to send it all the way around the outside. Can he make the move stick? Sliding his way through turn number 11. Once again, still trying to save the car through here. He's going to get up the inside of Duncan Hofland, and he makes the move stick. So Jack West, is he going to come into the pits? Indeed he will. Everyone's going to be filing in towards the box, this time by victims of the double stack strategy, Mirko Soriano, and I think now Nicolas Longue, because Istvan Pukki's had to stay out an extra lap. Nicolas Longue into the pit lane. Soriano, Clay and Pukki, they've all had to stay out on a set of the hard and medium compound of tyres so as to not double stack with their teammates. The rain has hit, and Nathan, in the span of one lap, just look at the coverage around the circuit.
Yeah, it's these people, Mirko Soriano, are in such a bad position at the moment, because look how much time they're losing. The track is soaked, and then you've got a bit of the question, if it's heavy rain, do we see the wet tyres? Because Jake Benham has gone for the wet tyres.
Wow.
So have these drivers on the Inters played it wrong, because the DRS have been disabled. We've got about 9 laps left to go. Is it possibility that we get the wet tyres? Because then some people might have played it completely wrong.
I don't know at this point. I really don't. I think Jarno might have been held up ever so slightly in the pit lane, because now he's a second off the back of Jack West, who's off like a shot at the net lead of the Grand Prix. Joseph Loke in P3 at the moment, a net P3. Of course, we're just going to wait for Soriano, Clay and Pukki to all come into the pit lane. Jed Norgrove has also come into the pit lane. for a set of the wet compound of tyres. It looks really heavy, but it does take a lot. You need that standing water to warrant the wet tyres. As now Jan Ortme is off the circuit. Joseph Loke gets a penalty. Here comes Loke to the inside of the Dutchman, heading in towards turn number 10. Once again, this is Joseph Loke's hunting ground as he goes up the inside of the championship leader. But Jan Ortme is not going to back down that easily because he got the inside line for the next right-hander at turn number 12. As now they're going to potentially run side by side through turn number 13. Who has got the grip? Around the outside goes Joseph Loke. As now Jan Ortme almost comes right across him, heading in towards turn number 14 at the end of that third sector. And in all of this, Jack West has been able to streak up the road as now everyone else coming to the pit lane. Shanaka Clay and Istvan Pukki, they've opted for the wet compound of tyres. Here comes Joseph Loke, but I think Jan Ortme has done enough. He's held P2 for the time being, but Joseph Loke is incredibly aggressive at this point.
Yeah, and a bit of an incident there between Ulas Ozilrim and I'll try to say it again. Ulas Ozilrim and I still can't say it. Vanti Brufair into turn 1. They had a bit of contact. Vanti went off the track and it put Ulas just a little bit ahead. So those two are going to start to lose. Well, they've lost a bit of time because they're 1.2 seconds back. Well, Lewis 3/10 back from Nicholas Longa is now Shanaka Clay being overtaken by Andrei Tarabukin. Look at this battle here. It's Philip Pressure and fighting with Istvan Pukki. Wet tyres for Istvan. It's Inters for Philip. We'll see what tyres better at this point. I think the Inters at this point are a little bit better. We'll see how they evolve as the race continues. Now, Philip up the inside there, down at turn 7, puts himself ahead of the Williams on the wet tyres. And so far the wet's not working too well, but we'll see how they evolve. That's Nicholas Longa ahead of Will Lewis into turn 10. Puts himself into P7 ahead of the Alpine, and then Joseph Loke still trying to get ahead of Jarno, but Jarno is defending very well and will not let that Mercedes through.
Yeah, and I just don't think the track is ready for the full wet tyres. But Shanaka Clay and Istvan Pukki, they had to go for the gamble. I mean, they were their race had been completely screwed over by just the fact that they were going to have to double stack with their teammates. They were between a rock and a hard place, and they've gone for the best available option. The rain is still clattering down on the circuit, but I'm just wondering, will the wet come at any point? Jack West is 1.7 seconds ahead of Jarno Ortme at this point, and this goes back potentially, Nathan, to what I said earlier about Jarno Ortme's as Istvan Pukki retires in the pit lane. He knows that the rain is not going to get heavy enough for the wet tyres. But as I was saying earlier, Jack West has got potentially a more higher downforce setup in comparison to Jarno Ortme, and now in the wet conditions he's reveling at this point, and Jarno Ortme is struggling to keep up with the pace of the Red Bull.
He is, and that gap looks like it's going to start to increase and increase and increase. We've got what, about 8 laps left of this race, and well, it's in the wet, in the dry it's difficult to get yourself through on someone. Whenever moment it's wet, it's a lot harder to get yourself an overtake. With Joseph Loke also then the back of Jarno Ortme, it's going to make it even more difficult for him to try and gain onto the back of that Red Bull. And I think at the moment it's clear to say that Jack will probably win the race, but we've still got lots of time to go, so we can't call it just yet as we head through. Heading towards turns 13 and 14 of our Caraton, also sitting right behind Joseph Loke. Obviously, Joseph's got a penalty, 3 seconds, so that will drop him down, which will give a podium to Alvaro Caraton to put him into P3, and also Ulas move up to P4, and maybe as well, even Vanti Brufair can get a position move up as well because of Joseph's penalties. We head into turn 1, and no, Joseph's still not close enough, but you can see he's got a little bit more pace, I think, than Jarno in these corners, and it just seems Jarno's got more of a dry setup compared to these on the wet setups.
We're nearing 5,000 viewers here in WOR. If you are enjoying this stream, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss another race like this, where it's just all question marks up in the air everywhere you look. I don't know how this race is going to end, but one thing I know for certain is that Jack West putting on an absolute blinder at the minute. Currently running away with this Grand Prix is now Joseph Loke off the exit of turn number 5. He's going to catch Jarno up there napping. He goes up the inside, and now look at this. The young guns of Jack West and Joseph Loke taking it to the old guard. The two-time F1 Esports champion has been mugged off by Joseph Loke there. He's got up the inside in turn number 5, and that was a clean overtake. No foul play whatsoever there. Jarno, I think he's just made the mistake of not defending that inside hard enough. Joseph Loke saw the opportunity. He licked the stamp and he sent it. And I think as now Jarno is squarely out of turn number 10, I think, Nathan, it's got to be his setup. It's just not suited to these conditions.
Definitely not, as that's also Nicholas Longa ahead of Vanti Brufair around the outside at turn 12 to put himself into P6. But look at this, Alvaro Caraton all on the back of that Mercedes, and yeah, it must be the setup because Jarno's not driving as good as he is normally. With these wet conditions, you can see Alvaro starting to gain, and then the straights he starts to lose a bit of time. That is probably due to Jarno's setup. We'll see as we head into turn 1, we'll see the advantage that Jarno does seem to get. Alvaro will seem to get in the corners. You can see already catch on to the back of the Mercedes, and this is really not good for Jarno, and he's probably at this point going to lose a couple of positions unless he defends really, really hard and can defend these inside lines. That's what helped Joseph Loke. He defended the outside, it allowed Joseph straight up the inside at turn 5, straight through, and now he's a second back. Jarno, he's off of Joseph Loke, and as well, if he's not careful, that gap can get to 3 seconds in the next 5 laps. Oh, that's a bit of contact, I think, there between Ulas and Alvaro. Alvaro looks like he just went completely around, and Jake has retired in the pits. He knows now that the wets aren't going to work, and what could have been for Jake Benham has turned into nothing.
5.5 laps left to go in this race, and Jack West's fate looks to be sealed, because I'm going to put the gap up to the leader now. It's 3.5 seconds to Jarno Opmeer, who is running currently in P2 due to the fact that Joseph Loke has that penalty. There's Nicholas Longe at the inside of Ulas Zildrim down at turn number 10, which has really been the hotspot for overtakes in this race, and it feeds in very nicely to this third sector where we can see some side-by-side running. Tom Manley leaves the session. I didn't even know he was still here at this point, but yeah, coming up towards now 5 laps to go in this race. Jack West putting on a masterclass, and I think the setup has just absolutely worked out in his favour. Every gear is turning in that Red Bull, and he's doing a brilliant job this evening. Now Ulas Zildrim once again losing another position. I wonder if he's got a slight bit of wing damage after that contact with Alvaro Carreton, because Will Lewis is now seizing the opportunity to go on the attack on the back of the Haas car, who's losing a lot of time at this point to Valentin Brufair. Something's got to be wrong for Ulas.
What's happened there? Oh, sorry, I thought it was Jarno, but it was Jake's the tired car.
That scared me too, Nathan. Oh, sorry, I was passing it over to you.
Oh, sorry. Well, Will is fighting with Ulas then into turn 5, and that's also Duncan Hoffman trying to get involved. And now it is the Alpine behind the Haas still. We're heading to turn 7. A bit of contact there between Will and Ulas. Will broke a little bit too late there and couldn't get himself ahead. But luckily, they don't end up going round. They make it through nicely. And now Duncan Hoffland with the advantage coming out of turn 9 into turn 10. He's going to probably go for the inside line. Yes, he will. But Ulas also defends that inside line. So Duncan has to brake earlier and try and get his through on probably 2 of them out of turn 10. And it does. Duncan Hoffland takes 2 of them into turn 10 to put himself into P7. And now Will Lewis up the inside of the Haas. Puts himself ahead of Ulas now into P8. And now it's Mirko Soriano's turn to try and get himself ahead. And they make contact. Mirko hits the back of Ulas into turn 13. Luckily, they make it through nicely, but you can see that Haas Ulas has got no pace whatsoever, and now it's time for the McLaren and Mirko Soriano to get himself ahead in towards turn 1. I think he might do is now. Alvaro Carton right the outside into that first corner, trying to get himself ahead, and Jarno defending perfectly.
Yeah, Jarno did a fantastic job of defending that inside line, and now we'll see up the hill. Alvaro Carton, he's really just got stuck behind the Dutchman at this point in the race. Joseph Loke is going to end up finishing second in this Grand Prix, because now Jarno Opmeer almost dropping outside that 3-second window for the penalty to be applied. So Joseph Loke, essentially at this point, he is going to maintain that second position in this Grand Prix unless Jarno Opmeer does his best to try and claw back as much time as possible at every corner that he can. We've got 3.5 laps left to go in this Grand Prix, and it looks like Jack West, he is the man to beat, and I don't know if anyone can at this point. Nicholas Longe, he is incredibly quick in the wet. If he was on the right strategy at the beginning of this race, maybe he could have been in the lead. Fighters now in towards turn number 10. He's all over the back of Alvaro Carton. Through here as Alvaro Carton slides his way through the exit in the midpoint of the corner, but somehow they've both been able to save it very nicely there. Is now up the hill through turn number 12 and 13, and now in towards 14 for the 30th time in this race. Jack West still leading, Joseph Loke second. Jarno is outside that 3-second window as Nicholas Longe looks to try and make a move.
Yeah, and this rain to me looks like it's getting heavier and heavier as we continue on. We've got 3 laps left to go in this race. 31, 32 and 33. Oh, that's a bit of contact. Nicholas Longe and Marathon and Van Tiebroek, they're all making contact down at turn 1. Now Duncan Hoffman into P4, Valentin into P5, and what could have been for Nicholas and Alvaro has now dropped them down to P8 and now P11. And it was, and that's built into the wall. These conditions are getting worse. Valentin
Brufair damaged there after contact with Nicholas Longe, and it was going so well in this race, and it's all come undone. I mean, it's so unlucky that it's ended out this way. Alvaro Carton sent down the order. Nicholas Longe was sent into a full spin there, and both of their races have completely been ruined at this point. It seems like now I don't see any positions changing at the front of the order. Jack West is still 1.2 seconds ahead of Joseph Loke, which has been the gap for a number of laps at this point, and regardless, Joseph Loke has that penalty. Jarno Opmeer is continuing to lose time to the McLaren, and there was a massive rift in between Opmeer and his fellow countryman Duncan Hoffland. So I think now we're going to have to look at sort of these lower top 10 positions and the scrap for that, because Alvaro Carlton, he's not got any wing damage and he's still quicker than Will Lewis. And of course these two are part of the Williams team themselves. Will Lewis are part of the academy. Of course, Alvaro Carlton's been with the team since 2018. Squarely off the exit of turn at number 14. Here comes Carlton heading down in towards turn number 1. Will he apply the pressure to his Williams teammate? It doesn't look like it at this point. Is now Valentin Brufair. He's got a time penalty. I think he might be coming into the pit lane, and I think his day is going to be done.
Yeah, and obviously Nicholas coming down. He's got Tarabukin right behind the caps of 8.2 and all very close. They need contact between Andre and Nicholas Longe as we come through, and now look at this gap between Joseph and Jack. Joseph is on absolutely ultimate pace. He's 5 seconds ahead of Jarno. He's 7/10 behind Jack West. If he didn't have this penalty, this would be an absolutely great race for Jack West. It would be great, it would be great regardless, but still would like to have that P1.
Well, I mean, there is still the possibility, Nathan, that Joseph Loke gets his penalty removed. We don't know if there was a double warning somewhere, if he was pushed off the track at any point. We just don't know at this point. So Joseph Loke still can take victory in this Grand Prix if he takes it to the stewards. I mean, these are two Tier 2 drivers, Nathan, fighting it out for the win here in PC Tier 1, the most prestigious tier here in WOR. I actually don't think Jack West is racing Tier 2 this season. Joseph Loke currently in that title fight for the Tier 2 championship, and they're scrapping now on the final lap of this race. One to go here. White flag is in the air. Jack West leading, Joseph Loke second, and then Jarno Opmeer in third. We got Triple J in the podium positions.
Yeah, as we come through, and still now the gap between Joseph and Jarno is 5 seconds. So Joseph will get that P2 because, well, he's actually 2 seconds, nearly more than he needed to get himself ahead of Jarno with that penalty. Very nice. Jarno's 5 seconds back. He's also dropping back to Duncan Hoffland, who's only 2.5 seconds behind as we come through in towards turn 5. A bit of a position change further below. I think that's Nicholas Longe looking for a move on Ulas. Can't get himself through. Pushing the Haas through the corner. Ulas defending as much as he can. Still, just to keep Nicholas behind. And for now, he does keep Nicholas behind, but he sends it into turn 4. And they make contact again. Nicholas Longe making contact. A bit of a push to pass. Not what we'd like to see at all. That also there's Andre ahead of the Haas. Then in towards turn 5. But Willis will try and send it, but he goes a little bit deep and can't get himself back ahead as they all squiggle around on the exit, trying to get a position where they can. Fabrizio Donoso watching this from where he's, but already near the end of the race is Jack West and Joseph Loke coming through out of turn 10.
Yep, Joseph Loke, he's been on rails for the last few laps and he's caught up to the rear of the Red Bull, but Jack West has done an incredible job as now through the final 2 corners in this race in a rain-soaked Spanish Grand Prix. We thought Jarno Opmeer, we thought Nicholas Longe, we counted out Jack West, but now to come across the line, he's going to take victory here in Spain and his PC Tier 1. Joseph Loke in P2, P3 for Jarno Opmeer in the end. Duncan Hoffland with a fantastic 4th position. Mirko Soriano ends the race in 5th. Will Lewis 6th, 7th for Caraton. Philip Presnay is going to come across the line in 8th. A controversial 9th for Nicholas Longe. I mean, what the race could have been for him, we just don't know at this point. And Ulash Zildjian is going to round out the points-paying positions. Fabrizio Donoso in 11th, 12th for Andre Tarabukin after he serves a 3-second time penalty. And Shanaka Clay, I mean, dismal from him, and it wasn't even his fault. So I really do feel bad for Shanaka at this point. Valentin Brufair getting all that wing damage. He stuck it out for some reason without a front wing in the wet conditions. That must have been hell to drive for him. Jed Norgrove was really nowhere in this race. He'll come home, finish 15th, and Xander Van Dyken just in behind him. But Jack West, I mean, what a day for him.
Yeah, great. Absolutely amazing. I definitely didn't come into this race thinking Jack West would take victory. I definitely didn't come in saying that Joseph Lowe could take a podium. He's moved up 5 positions and 3 for Jack, and they made that strategy work well. Jarno, his setup wasn't optimal, and also, looking a bit further down, 7 positions up for Duncan, 8 for Will Lewis. I think Preschnader or someone was up by 7 as well, so many drivers making some big leaps up the field.
You know, I'm pretty sure I saw someone at the beginning of the stream, actually, at the beginning of the race, when we asked for everyone's predictions, that someone said Jack West was going to take victory. If that was you, please make yourself known so we can congratulate you and potentially turn you into the authorities for being completely psychic, because I don't see how anyone could have saw that one coming. Jack West, really out of nowhere, he just had incredible pace, and fair play to him. If you remember, he was, I think, on the verge of being eliminated in the early sessions. He was in the drop zone for a long time of qualifying. He managed to get himself into Q3, put it in a great P4 for the start of this race, and now he's come home to win it. So really well done to Jack West and Joseph Loke in second. Hopefully we can get all these guys in for an interview. Jan Otmir definitely not going to be happy with his setup this evening. I think he was saying that it was just awful on his stream, so it's not suited for the wet, and it really did come back to bite him. Duncan Hoffman, what a race from him, up from 11th into 4th. Soriano goes from 8th to 5th. Will Lewis, how about that? 8 positions gained for him, 14th to 8th. Incredible drive from him. Alvaro Carton down from 3rd position into 7th. I mean, that really wasn't his fault at the end of the day. Philip Presnader in 8th, 9th is Longue, then 10th is Ulash Zildrum, and then outside the points is Andrei Tarabukin, Valentin Brufer, Jed Norgrove, and then Xander Van Dyken. Your DNFs Fabrizio Donoso and Shinaka Clay as well. Then your DNFs for today is Jake Bedham, Istvan Pukki, Tom Manley, and then Ishmael Fassi. And that brings us to the end of this very chaotic, very unpredictable Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah, it was a great one. I think with the rainmaking appearance made it a lot more exciting. I think it would have been great either way with the dry, but the rain made it way better, and I think it was a great race. Obviously, many people unpredictably taking podiums and positions we wouldn't normally expect to see. Like, I wouldn't have also said that we'd see Duncan, Mirko and Will 4, 5 and 6. Like, there's lots of changes through, and also Nicholas dropping down with Alvaro. Obviously, many mistakes made from Nicholas in that final few laps, which Nicholas you think is one who'd, he'd be one not to make those type of mistakes, but today he got the better in these conditions, did, and also Jono Otmir dropping back in the final few laps. It made a really interesting race, and I believe you've got Jack in the interview room, but it won't let me drag him up, unfortunately.
I will bring us over to the interview screen, and I'll drag in both Jack and Joseph into the commentary box. Who should we start it off with, Nathan?
The race winner.
All right, we'll talk to Jack West first. Jack, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello. Hi.
All right, wonderful. You are loud and clear on my end. Let's talk about coming into this race. Starting P4, how did qualifying go for you?
I mean, it was all right. I mean, the lap wasn't great, but, you're fourth, you can't really argue with it. So, yeah, I thought it was going to be quite a good race. I mean, I didn't really expect the Ferraris to go for softs. There was 3 blocks of rain on the thing, so I know I really didn't expect them to go for that. And especially with the pit lane on Spain being over 20 seconds, I think I don't really see why they went for that strategy, and we clearly saw it didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. And then heading into this race, when you were sitting in 3rd position for most of it after Nico and Istvan pitted, and throughout most of the lap, you saw that Jarno Otmir was quite slow in sector 2 and 3, and then down the straights he bolted away. Sort of when you saw that happening, what did you kind of think about his setup?
I mean, I knew from qualifying, just looking at his first sector, he was on really low wing. So I kind of knew it was going to be sort of that. But with the restart, I thought he was going to up his wing because there was rain, but obviously not. But yeah, we kind of just really sitting behind him. I was quite close to him at times, and Joe gave me quite a good race. Went for a move I didn't expect it, but luckily at Spain with sector 3, the marbles are quite, if you're on the outside of the long right, the marbles are just going to wash you out. So there's not really much he could have done there. But yeah, I knew Jan was on way lower wing, so I knew I was going to be quicker at the end of the race. So I kind of just bided my time. I waited till the rain came down, and I clearly had better pace than Jarno.
And then coming across the line, we saw you celebrating, peeling off to the pit wall. What was going through your head?
I just wanted the race to be over. I was struggling a lot with my rear tyres. Joe was definitely quicker than me in the wet, and yeah, I just wanted to not bin it because I was really struggling in the last 5 laps with the rear tyres. They were really starting to go off for some reason. Maybe too high of tyre pressures, maybe, but yeah, I was really struggling, so I was happy the race just finished, really. Yeah,
really well done. That's all from me in terms of questions. Nathan, anything you want to pose to Jack?
No, I think you answered everything. But yeah, again, another great race. Jack, and I see you back in the podium positions and on the top of the podium, which you definitely deserve. And just one quick thing, actually. Do you think, obviously, being able to win here in T1, do you think that kind of increases your confidence for, obviously, like PHL and F2, and obviously if you was to take part in any of the Tier 2 races here?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, you've kind of just got to work with what you have, really, and it's great to win in a Tier 1 grid, but I mean, you can't really, you can't really you can boost your confidence, but you can't really get ahead of yourself, really. You just got to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, well, thanks for you joining us, and we'll hopefully see you next time. So have a good one.
Yeah, cheers, thanks.
Thank you, Jack, for joining us in the interview room. Next up, we have the man who's finished second best this evening, Nathan. Do you want to talk to Joseph here?
Yeah, can do. Hello, Joseph. Welcome in yet again. It's quite common that we end up speaking to each other. I think in literally 3 leagues rules together.
Yeah, thank you very much. Obviously, it was qualifying was not exactly ideal. Obviously, Q1 was good, Q2 was good. Just Q3, I made a mistake on my last lap on my only set of new tyres into turn 1, so I was like a tenth and a half down coming out of turn 4. So to still improve, I was quite happy with. I think my lap would have put me, I think, like P2, P3 if I'd have got sector 1 right. But it was one of those, you don't get it right every time. So just obviously went into the race, just knew that there was the rain coming towards the end, and I know that I've always been pretty strong in the wet. So yeah, just tried to make as many positions as I could. Obviously throwing a couple of big moves on a few people, but kept it all clean. The penalty I got was for in the pit lane for some reason. I got a warning. I don't really know why. So, but yeah, I think the race went quite well overall. Yeah,
and also in qualifying, you went for your final run a little bit earlier than everyone else. Is there any reason why, or just fancied something a little bit different to the others?
It was a few things. Obviously, the marbles at this track are really bad, and obviously the longer you leave it, the worse they get. And from what I know, I mean, it's the first time I've ever done a full qualifying session on this game, but Q3 it doesn't really get much faster towards the end, from what I know. So I felt like I'd just get my run out the way with, and then I can just see where it puts me. And obviously, I made a mistake at turn 1, so it's one of those. I'm not too disappointed. It was still enough for P7, so, or it might have been P8. I'm not sure, but either way, it was still good enough to put me in a place where I could fight.
Yeah, and also in the wet, I'd say quicker than pretty much everyone on track by quite a mile. So he was really quick, especially coming to the end of that when the track started to get a little bit more wet. Was your setup catered to the wet conditions?
I hadn't really thought about it too much. My wings were lower than Jack, so I was quite surprised of my pace. I think it was more just kind of not over pushing. I feel like a lot of people make that mistake of kind of forgetting how slippy it can actually be in the wet and how important the exits are out of corners, things like that. So I was actually just going in slower into corners, making sure I was getting clean exits, not having any slides, keeping the tyres in a good window. And I think that was what, gave me the pace that I had. Obviously, it's very hard to not make mistakes, and I made a few of them myself. But yeah, I think I was just, managing everything well and doing everything I could to give myself the best chance possible of the race win.
Yeah, and just one last thing. Do you think, obviously back here tomorrow in Tier 2, do you think you can hopefully try and do the same and try and put yourself on the podium, but this time without the penalty?
Well, hopefully Jack West isn't there, so that's the one we don't want up at the front. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm good friends with Jack, and obviously he did a good race. He qualified well. So, but no, yeah, it'll be good fun. Obviously doing it again. I've got a good bit of practice in from that race. Know what to expect from the race now, and yeah, I think we can be on for a good result again tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's all from me. But anything from you, Dan?
No, nothing from me, Joseph, but just really well done in this race. And yeah, it feels like it's quite a commonplace that you and I are talking in the commentary box after a race. So really well done. Keep it up heading into the next few weeks.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that brings us to the end then of the interview section. I think I can bring us back over to the interview. There we are. Get myself and Nathan back on the screen. What can we say about that race? I mean, it was fun. It was a good race. I mean, it was all over the place at some points. I didn't know who was going to win at any point, and it ended up being Jack West of all people.
Yeah, it was a great job. I think fully deserves it out of probably and Joseph as well. They both deserved the podiums that I think of. Out of many people on the grid that did a great job. They kept it calm under pressure, and they got themselves through a grid which normally you wouldn't place them at the top. You place them through in the midfield. So yeah, great job from them both, and obviously Joseph's back tomorrow, so yet again they've got a bit more practice to go into Tier 2. I'm not sure about Jack. I don't think he actually races here in Tier 2, so I don't think we'll see him here, but I presume there'll be some other leagues that he'll take part in that have Spain as part of the calendar. So obviously that's much needed practice, and obviously to be able to beat and be, like he admittedly said, to be quicker than the likes of Jano Watme, it's definitely a great thing. For you, but like you said, you can make sure he doesn't get the better reviews. You don't get yourself a bit too much of an ego boost. But still, great job from Jack, and yeah, hopefully hopefully we get to see him do it again. Obviously, we've seen him in F2 at PSGL and a constant podium sitter, race winner. I think he's one of these. If he can keep up like this, there'll be esports teams watching him left, right, and centre.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, already esports teams are watching PSGL and WOR, so definitely do a lot of their scouting in these hunting grounds, and I'm really excited to see these guys that we're seeing in PC Tier 1 getting their first starts at the very top upper echelon of league racing, and then seeing where their future goes from there. It is great to see that league racing has come such a long way. Speaking of, I think this is the first time that I've been on WOR where we've reached over 5,000 viewers. I know we had 5,500 last week, but of course I was on holiday, and Nathan, you weren't here either, but we reached a peak of 5,002 viewers, so it was incredible to commentate today, and there was a lot of love in the live chat, and of course every kind comment means so much to myself and Nathan, it is great to see the support for WOR.
Yeah, it's definitely great. Obviously, first of all, it helps the drivers. They get themselves out there. It brings esports teams more onto the scene, and watching these drivers develop. It's also good, for everyone in the chat to have a nice, sit down, relax, and just watch some great racing every Sunday here at WR, and also Mondays and Thursdays, I think, is when the console's on. And yeah, it's also great for us as well, because we know that, we're not doing it for nothing. We're getting something out, we're getting all these people enjoying the shows, and, all the support. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the league, the likes of Luke and all the other commentators, lead coordinators, drivers, everyone who works here. It's great to see all the effort having a reward for it.
Yeah, and even right now, Nathan, we've got 1,100 people just watching us waffle about the race. So thank you, everyone, for sticking with us towards the end of the stream. Next week, we're heading to Zandvoort. It is definitely going to be a bit of a scary one there. I mean, it's a relatively new track. I think it debuted on F1 2021, which was almost 2 years ago now. So it is. People are still getting a little bit used to it. Unfortunately, people are asking for a Jarno interview. He didn't join the waiting room. That's just how we do it. If the driver wants an interview, they hop into the waiting room, then we drag them into our Discord call. So unfortunately, we're not going to hear from Jarno this evening, and I think he's definitely going to be feeling a little bit frustrated by his race today.
Yeah, definitely. And you can't blame him. He was looking really quick in the drive. You can tell it was just to do his setup.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course after his qualifying as well, I thought he was going to be right on top. Unfortunately, heading into the race, and then the rain came, and his setup just wasn't suited to it, and that is just something that happens. And I think it is a mistake on his part. But I know that Jarno Watme, he's a WR champion back in season 13. He's a 2-time F1 Esports champion. He's definitely not going to bow out from this one, and he's still managed to pick up P3, so that is valuable points that he is scoring ahead of Nicholas Longe, Lucas Blakely and Otis Lawrence, who is championship rivals in this one. Of course, Lucas and Otis didn't race today, but Nico had a terrible race, unfortunately. The strategy didn't work out for him, and then of course you're getting in that incident with Alvaro Caraton. It just didn't work out in his favour, and that's benefited Jarno Watme. So in the next coming weeks, I don't think this race is going to phase Jarno at all.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I think he's a double esports champion. I think one race here at WR is not going to face him at all, losing it to a P3. So yeah, he's going to look to probably even be quicker. He knows he's got a bit of a confidence. He's like, right, we've got P3 us. I'm going to get a P1. We want to win and try and make that championship gap as big and as big as it can be. As we talk in Netherlands, for me, it's a great track. It's a little bit like Hungary and Monaco in one. To me, it's got the reminiscence. What's the word? Reminiscence. What's the word, Dan?
Resemblance.
Something like that. Something beginning with R and ending with E. Of those two tracks, so I think it's a great track for qualifying, racing. going to be a lot more difficult. I think we'll see quite a few incidents around there, and that's just in general, not because of drive stands, but just because of the type of track it is. It's very easy to bump over a curb and get shot across the track. It's very easy to outbrake yourself and go inside by side, and it's generally quite a thin track. So definitely not going to be the best track for racing, but qualifying is going to be stellar.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is really fun to hot lap on, but then stick 19 other cars on that circuit and it becomes hell to drive, and I think it's going to be no different for these guys in PC at Tier 1. You can catch us next week in the very same place, at the very same time, 7 p.m. sharp is when we will be beginning round number 10 of this season. There's only 15 rounds in WOR Season 15, and the season's gone by incredibly quick thus far. We're almost into the double digits. I think that's all, though. Everything from us today. See someone asking about the current standings. You can check them out. I believe they'll be on Twitter in the coming days, but I think if you head over to the WOR Discord server, you should be able to find them, which I think leads me on very nicely to our outro. Check the link in the description to join our Discord server, where you can keep up to date with all your WOR news. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any WOR action, and if you have not done so already, please do consider following WOR on Twitter. It is at WOR League, and if you want to follow myself on Twitter, it is at DanfieldF1_, and you can follow Nathan at RichieF1, which, by the way, Nathan, finally I got the right graphic on the screen.
Yeah, I think it's been a long time coming. I know it's been right before, but I think it was edited, so it didn't look exactly right. But for once, we got it with the right font, the right style, and yeah, there we go. 9 rounds in, but we got it correct once.
Well, I did it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this race. It was incredibly fun. Make sure you tune in at 7 p.m. next Sunday for the Dutch Grand Prix. That is all from us this evening. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and good night.